Commissioner Model said no.
Try now.
Okay,
Know that they can't hear us.
no, she couldn't.
No, I think the light just went off, so I think it should be good now. Try it.
Okay,
We can hear you now.
great, thank you. All right, so I'll continue with our roll call. Commissioner Lascos,
Here.
Commissioner Amato,
Here.
Commissioner Tiki,
Here.
Commissioner, alternate Commissioner Onofrio,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Usel,
Here.
and myself, Commissioner Harger. Mr. Rossetti, our administrator. Mr. Panico, our consultant.
Here.
Ms. Vernazos, our recording secretary.
Present.
Ms. Charbonneau, our stenographer. Okay, and Mr. Nappi, our downtown coordinator, is excused from this evening's meeting. A couple of points for continuing.
Present. I'm
Are
sorry,
you there?
present.
That's you, Stephanie, thank you. Okay. Just go back on mute. Okay, a couple points. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host, while commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting. The chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary is clear as to who is speaking. This evening, we have the opening of 3 public hearings, and I'd like to share the protocol for each, especially for those who may not have ever attended a public hearing of the commission before. Mr. Rossetti will indicate if any written comments were received from members of the public no later than 24 hours before the start of this evening's meeting. If written comments were received, they will be read into the record. The applicant and/or his associates will make the presentation. Commission can ask questions during the presentation or at its conclusion. The applicant and/or associates can answer commission questions at the time they are presented or at the conclusion of the presentation. Public will then be recognized to comment on the application. The applicant's attorney and/or associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. If the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. If the public hearing remains open, the commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's and/or his associates' presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. If the commission feels the applicant and/or his associates have answered all questions and have addressed all concerns from the commission and/or public, The chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Staff will then schedule a discussion about the application at an upcoming commission meeting, during which time the commission will be asked by the chair on how it wants to proceed. I'd also like to share the guidelines for members of the public who choose to speak at the point in the public hearing when the chair calls for public comment. If you are participating by Zoom and you wish to speak, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature to identify yourself. After you are identified by Mr. Rossetti at that point in the meeting, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. Please present your comments and questions which need to be directed to the chair and the chair only, not to the applicant and or his associates. Comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments previously presented. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. So I will ask Commissioner Amato, Commission Secretary, to read the public hearing notice, the legal notice for the first application we're going to be hearing. Oh, she did. I can't.
She stepped away for a quick minute.
Oh, all right. Yeah, she goes. Here
There
she
she
is. Okay, so Commissioner Amato, can you read the legal notice, please, for the first public hearing?
Sure. The Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held virtually on Wednesday, April 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. via Zoom and at City Hall to consider the following. Initiation of application 21-30 Russo and Rizzio LLC for 79 Platt Road LLC at 79 Platt Road, Assessors Map 77 Lot 20 on 1.96 acres for a zone change from OPD to IA2 and a special exception for 3 buildings with 1 building in front for limited retail use connected with a contractor's business and 2 buildings in the rear for private contractor storage and equipment bays.
Okay, and we'll put out some sign-up sheets here in the auditorium for the 3 public hearings. If there's any member of the public who is present in the auditorium and would like to speak during the public hearing portion, you can sign up. I'll bring these sheets over to the table here, and here's a pen as well. So the first one is going to be for the storage yard. If there's anybody here, it's identified as number 1. If there's anybody here that wants to speak during the application for the corner of Petromont Lane and Quorum Road, that's application number 2. And the third one is the Brookview Apartments 3, that's listed as number 3. Okay, thank you. So please feel free to come on up and sign up. All right, so first is the public hearing for application 2130. This was accepted for review on January 11th, 2022. Posted on the city's website is the zone change and special exception application with narrative, a property map, site plan, an overall site plan, sightline map, proposed zone change, radius map, grading and drainage plan, a corrected soil and erosion control plan, storm sewer cross-section, and architectural plans. Mr. Rossetti, were there any other reports, materials, or correspondence received that we need to acknowledge for the record?
Not right now.
No, okay. Okay, I see that the applicant is present, so go ahead, Attorney Russo, identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Commissioners, good evening. Good to be before you on this application. Chris Russo with Russo Rizzio LLC, offices at 10 Saskill Hill Road in Fairfield, here on behalf of the applicant, 79 Platt Road LLC. This application is a long time in the making, and I want to thank staff, Mr. Panico, the commission, for their help in this process, and their patience. It has taken some time with the prior text amendment, but really appreciate everybody's feedback on that to make sure that we got that correct and made sure everybody was comfortable with the language in that, particularly for this amendment with the question of outdoor storage. So appreciate everyone's help on that. The first part, Chair, I thought maybe I would present on the zone change first, and then maybe take questions with regards to the zone change.
Sure, whatever you like.
And then proceed to the special exception permit part of the application.
Mhm.
So the first part of this application is to approve the site at 79 Platt Road for the IA2 zone. Oddly, the site is really in the heart of a industrial district and industrial uses. It's surrounded by industrial uses, except for the car wash that sits to its west. But the site is actually zoned OPD. The IA2 zone is located on the southern side of Platt Road. The northern side is OPD. When you come up Bridgeport Avenue onto Platt Road, one of the things you notice is that there's a quick jump in elevation. Bridgeport Ave sits at about 272 feet elevation. The car wash is at 284, and our site is actually where, if you look on the site plan, you'll see our finished floor is at 302. So a pretty quick and steep change in grade that almost creates this entirely new neighborhood of industrial neighborhood that's really separate from Bridgeport Avenue. Both physically, but also visually. You really, from Bridgeport Ave, it's tough to see, you really can't see the top of this hill where this site is. When you turn onto Platt Road, on the right side, you start seeing the industrial properties. There's the industrial woodworking property. It's brick building there that's on your right. And then you get to the intersection of Platt Road and Oliver Terrace, where on the right you have what's currently a vacant piece of property. You probably saw the sign out there out front that's advertising it as industrial warehouse space. There's the Tryon Manufacturing Company building. It's a small building that sits there on the corner. There's the entrance to Oliver Terrace, which is where Oak Ridge Transfer Station is located. And then there's the Brennan Construction Building. And those properties are all located in the IA2. On our side of Platt Road, it's still industrial uses despite not being zoned IA2. The property to our east, and if you see there's that plan that's up on the, and it's right here as well. There's a small sliver of land that's in between our piece and Route 8. And we refer to it as the Brennan lot just because that's where Brennan Construction keeps all their truck and equipment. It's an outdoor storage yard for them. So, and that property is actually in the OPD, even though clearly not office, not suitable for office either. The Frontier building, which is at the rear of our site and significantly downgrade from us, and that building, that property actually goes out to Bridgeport Ave, is also in the OPD. Though if you've been to the site and you've been to the Frontier building, there's actually a large outdoor storage yard there for Frontier. It's where they keep their cable. It's also where they keep all their telephone poles. There's a lot of big trucks that come in here, that come in that area. And there's a loading area back there for the vehicles. So we also have an industrial use behind us, even though it is in the OPD. So really, it's just the car wash to our left. That's the only one that is not an industrial use. That's in a PDD and on kind of onto its own. But again, it sits fairly below our site. They're at 284, we're at 302. So we're really kind of in this industrial neighborhood. And that's why we think that we are more appropriately zoned for the IA2 zone. It's not the location for an office building or an OPD use. We have no direct access out onto Bridgeport Ave, unlike the Frontier building that sits to our rear. And it's so high up, it's really visually disconnected from Bridgeport Ave. The site also doesn't meet the standards of the OPD. The minimum lot area in the OPD is 120,000 square feet. This site is only 87,000. The IA2, on the other hand, requires 80,000. So by approving the zone change, you're eliminating that. You're making this lot fully conforming under the IA2 zone. It would be a fully conforming lot in that zone. This site, speaking of kind of inappropriate uses, this site was actually the former location, and I can show you. There's a survey packet if you're at home that shows that there actually used to be a single-family dwelling here, and I don't know a worse spot for a single-family dwelling than being in the middle of all the uses that surround this site. So it's not an appropriate spot for residential use, and it is not an appropriate spot, we believe, for the OPD. We think it's a property that clearly belongs in the IA2 zone. If I can go through your POCD. For the going through your plan of conservation and development, the POCD states that a critical component of the plan is to maximize the economic development potential of the limited industrial zone land. And you know, as I've been stating, this site has little potential as an OPD, and it certainly, you know, didn't really have much use as a single family lot either. It's never going to go back to that, but it does have real value as a industrial property. Another section of the POCD says that economic development can be broadly defined as any development that generates wealth for the community. This has traditionally been interpreted as commercial and industrial development that generates more tax revenue than it requires in services, which this property would certainly generate more tax revenue, certainly more than the single family home that used to be there. But also it creates jobs for local residents, and it creates multiplier effects as business employees patronize other local businesses to meet their business or personal needs. So not only will this site in the IA2 zone place less demand on services and generate more tax revenue than it had been, but I do think it has a multiplier effect, and we talked about this in great length during the text amendment phase, that the great convenience of the contractor business use, which is now permitted via special exception permit in this zone, that'll be something that'll be very convenient for contractors who live in Shelton, including my client who has his own contractor business and is planning on occupying this site if it is approved. So, and we have several other contractors who all live in Shelton who are looking to occupy this site if approved. The next section is the POCD, which I believe we satisfy with this zone change. Talks about the vacant residential land, which this essentially, you know, it was a single family home, but it was so ostracized. And the POCD talks about rezoning those properties to provide for more commercial and for more industrial land in areas where it's appropriate. And we think this site is really a perfect opportunity here. You can change this property to the IA2 zone without any fear and add it to the industrial tax base without any fear of impacting a residential neighborhood. There's no residential district anywhere near the site that would be impacted by this being in the IA2 zone. And there's actually a specific section I just wanted to read word for word regarding this that says rezoning land from residential to commercial and industrial zones in appropriate locations can provide a compound net benefit by not only providing for higher value non-residential development, which we're looking to do here, but also by displacing potential residential development that might otherwise become a perpetual drain on the city's budget. Now, I don't know if that property really is a single-family residential was a perpetual drain, but it was certainly out of place for that neighborhood. It didn't belong there, and my client has torn down the home, so it'll never go back to residential. And then it says suitable land should be identified adjacent to commercial and industrial zones where conflicts with existing residential development can be kept to a minimum, which really fits us perfectly here. We are adjacent to an industrial zone, a well-established industrial area in Shelton, and by making the zone change, we will not be conflicting with any type of a residential development or with any type of residential zone. It's really what's most appropriate, we feel, for the site. And again, with the physical conditions of the site, the fact that it is visually separated from Bridgeport Ave and at the top of this hill, and that it is currently surrounded by industrial uses, we think that really naturally fits within the IA2 zone. And we respectfully request your approval of the zone change, and that it also, we believe, satisfies a number of your goals in your POCD. And that's really it. It's fairly straightforward. It's a property that's in an industrial area, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but fairly straightforward on the zone change.
Were you going to go through any of the specific sheets?
Well, in the special exception, I was going to go through the plan specifically for the site.
Just the zone change.
So I'm just, yeah, if there was any questions with regards to the zone change,
No.
happy to answer those first before getting into the special exception.
Do any commissioners participating remotely have any questions for the applicant on just the zone change?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. Very good. Okay, go ahead, Attorney Russo.
Okay, so. So for those at home, I'm on the overall site plan of the site, and this is bringing to a conclusion the amendment we had filed and was approved by this commission for a line 45A, which was to allow contractor businesses in the IA2 zone under a special exception permit. When we had filed that, and as I stated earlier, we had discussed the need that there are many contractors that live and raise their families in Shelton. My client has been a contractor for decades, has lived and raised his family on Captain Road. His sons are now contractors living in Shelton, and one just bought a house of his own in Shelton. You know, like any contractor, they have their vehicles, they have their supplies, they have plumb fittings, they have electrical wire, they have their toolboxes, and those are things that need to be stored somewhere. And this application looks to address that need. When we were doing the amendment, we talked about that. A lot of times what happens with contractors is they have, because there are no locations like this, or there's very few locations like this where they could store their equipment and their supplies, a lot of them store it at their homes, and which creates all sorts of issues with violations. And so this hopefully will relieve some pressure. They need a place that's not their home to store things related to their business. And that's what we are here to address. So the applicant proposes to construct 3 buildings on the site, completely conforming under the IA2 zone standards. First, the applicant proposes a 6,750 square foot building that you'll see towards the front of the site that will really run parallel with Platte Road It's an opportunity to screen the buildings that are in the back, while also providing a limited retail use up front. As a retail building, its frontage contains a significant amount of window area, and it's constructed in a retail design. Again, something that puts a more attractive face to the property, and to screen the buildings in the back, and the cars that might park back there. The vehicles will enter the site on the eastern side off Platte Road, the eastern side of the site off of Platte Road, and there's a parking area right as you turn in to the left that will contain 12 parking spaces. That's intended to be for those visiting the retail building, that they can pull in there and then go and not have to, go to the back where that is the main bulk of this contractor business use. And the intent is for this retail building to have a user that's connected to a building contractor. So one of the contractors might sell some supplies or to other contractors, but really it's meant to be connected to one of the users rather than being its own just random separate retail use.
So like plumbing supplies and that sort of thing?
Correct. Correct. Or, we don't have a specific user yet, but something along those lines. It's not meant to be, office supply store. That's not what we really envision going there. It's somebody who would be more connected.
Would that be the whole building, or are you going to say?
So this building, that would be for this building up front.
But that's one tenant.
One tenant?
One
for the
tenant,
full-
that's what I.
One tenant, yes.
Yeah.
The intent is for one tenant. So in the site driveway continues beyond along the right side of this retail building to two retail buildings that are positioned on either ends of the site. Those buildings are oriented perpendicular to Platte Road and each contain 4,800 square feet. And they will have multiple garage bays for the business contractor use. It's really the principal use of the site.
Attorney Russo,
Yes.
did you misspeak? You were talking about going to the rear buildings, refer to them in the retail category?
No,
No.
these are the building contractor buildings.
Right, those are
So
the
yeah,
storage.
sorry, I might have missed.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is the front building that runs parallel to Platte Road
Mhm.
is the retail building.
Right,
These two back here are the building contractor buildings, which will have the garage bays. And really, it's gonna be, we may have a contractor who comes in who wants 2 bays,
Mhm.
3 bays. We're really kind of open to that. We just have the square footage, and then, we'll see as tenants come, they may occupy more than one
Well,
area.
How many garages or bays are you going to have per building?
I think the maximum would be, I think we said 4 or 5, yeah, maybe possibly up to 6. It really could depend on the tenant. If
Well,
they
you're going to
needed more
subdivide
bays.
to begin with, or are going to have the thing all open?
Sorry, Commissioner?
Are you going to subdivide the building? or
I think
have
so,
it
yeah.
all-
So if a tenant came in and wanted two garage bays, then we would leave it open within those 2 and then build a wall to separate them from the
Okay,
next
I
user.
understand that, but the only thing is if you do that and you have 2 or 3, you could have someone almost doing manufacturing, and that's not what the zone's for.
Well, it would be,
Correct.
correct. So yeah, that would not be permitted. If somebody was doing that, they would be in violation. And so,
Mhm.
the zoning enforcement officer could,
I know, but who tells them they're in violation?
so, but I think that even if it was 1 bay, if each tenant was limited to 1 bay, somebody could go in there and do it. It's just,
Yeah, but
it's just a
I-
question of demand.
You're drawing on A10 though. You do indicate that you're going to subdivide everything. Am I correct?
Yeah, the intent, we don't believe there's a user who's gonna come in and say, we want the whole building.
We'll also stipulate in the lease
I have to,
that it's not for fabrication.
right.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. So really, when a tenant comes in, we could talk to them about their demand and see how much space they need. They're 4,800 square foot buildings. We're anticipating that it would probably be somewhere between 4 to 6 per building, contractors that will use it. And there's also an area that you can see here in the middle for parking spaces. I believe the intent is, if you are a contractor, you will come in the morning, come to the site, park your personal vehicle, grab the contractor vehicle, grab any supplies that you need for that day's job, and leave the site. So in the morning, there'll be an influx of people coming in and out. And then really it's not until the end of the day that they're finished at the end of the day to come back, return the vehicle, get their personal vehicle and leave. Those would really be the 2 peak times. The retail store, there'll be some demand during the day, but it's fairly limited.
Depends what it is.
Sorry.
Depends what it is. I mean, if you put a lighting facility in there, like Valley Electric, you may have a lot of in and out customers.
It's not, but the size of the building, I mean, it's a 6,750 square foot. It's not something it's really not meant for the general public. It's not, it's not on Bridgeport Avenue. It's not something that's meant like that. It's really meant for contractors. Maybe, some people would pick something up before they even head out for the day of work. So it's meant to be a very kind of limited retail use.
It's a small Home Depot.
Sorry?
It's a small Home Depot.
Yeah, they're very small, limited, just not the fun. So one of the things that came up, I know, because we had shown, we had talked with staff on the location of the driveway and where we put it here on the site. And I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. One of the challenges with the site is that it's kind of on the inside of, it's on the inside of this curve. And Al Shepard worked on designing this and layout and design, and he found that this location on the right side had the appropriate sight lines. Because the issue is, if you're on the outside of the curve, if you're on the outside of the C curve essentially here that we have here, that's a great thing. So if you're coming from Oliver Terrace, that's good because you can see what's coming from on either side. If you are on the inside of the curve, it's a challenge. And so there was a question about, should the site driveway be located in the middle or should it be located on the right side? And you'll see in your the plans that you received, there is a Siteline Map that shows that where we've located the driveway has appropriate sight lines. And let me flip to that map just so. Show it. So if you look at the Siteline Map, you can see one of the things we contend with is not only that we're on the inside of this curve, but then there's the grade change as well. So in the middle, you can see the location of the driveway, and you can see how the road just falls down as you head towards Bridgeport Ave, and then it keeps inclining. And so by locating it, in the middle, it really hampers our sight lines. But by locating it over here, the nice thing about it is, if you've been by the site, you drove by the site, you probably saw that there's a considerable amount of earth right there in the front. It's almost like a little bowl there that's at the front. So what we're going to do and we're proposing to do is remove that to flatten it out. And that will allow us to have this nice long sight line for people coming around the curve. If we're in the middle, we don't really gain much benefit by clearing this. And we just have a shorter distance to see people that are coming up on this curve of Platt Road.
Excuse me, Attorney Russo.
Sorry.
Mr. Rossetti, you don't need to put this up.
Wait, when we put it, I can.
Oh, okay. Who's controlling it?
Actually went away. Zoom app's off on here. Are you able to share it? Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, he'll be able to.
This is an added challenge for attorneys being able to do both Zoom and in person. Okay. So is
There we
it
go.
showing now, Alex? Up there?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So, so you can see if we clear this, if we flatten this out, make the grade flat here, we have a nice long sight line here. If we move this, we really don't get as much benefit from having cleared this out. And we have this problem of these cars that are coming up Platte Road from Bridgeport Avenue and making sure we have adequate sight distances to see them. The other thing you may have noticed too is when you get up to the top of this hill, you have the bridge going over Route 8, and that's relatively straight. So from where we are at the top of the hill, or near the top of the hill, I should say, we have a better view looking down that straight corridor. So you can see the cars coming over the bridge.
Mhm.
So it's a much better location, and I think a safer location on this side of the property. The other thing too, just having been there a few times, to be off to the side and let whatever is happening with the trucks that are coming down Oliver Terrace is a better position to be in. Some of those trucks that come down Oliver Terrace are pretty large.
Oh, yeah.
And a few of them, when I was just there, a few of them tend to clip over here onto the curb. They really need a wide angle there. And actually today, we were there today, and there was a dump truck that was coming and taking a right onto Oliver. And so these two were trying to go by each other. And so I think having us off to the side, and so whoever's driving can see that and really avoid it,
Mhm.
is a better place and a better location for this driveway.
Mr. Panico,
Yes.
do you have any concerns about the driveway location?
Not really. I think he's far enough away from the intersection, but I would be interested in hearing from the city engineer about it. It could be moved. It could be moved to the east even more, I think, looking at where their property line is,
Mhm. Okay,
Right at the end.
providing it doesn't compromise the sight distance to the west.
right. Okay. All right, go ahead, Attorney Russo.
So, and that's really it as far as, what we're proposing. We have appropriate drainage. We're going to get appropriate drainage on this site, really bring it up to code. And we feel that it's a great layout. You have this front building that, even though there's not outdoor storage, we make sure of that in the reg, but still just to have this building out front, that is a nice presentation. It's I'll show you some of the elevations here. I think go through those. But it's a nice brick building. It's got a lot of windows on it. It's an attractive building that will present itself in front of the site and really screen the back two buildings. But the site is so high up above Bridgeport Avenue, you're really not going to see it. And even if when you go to the site and you look back down to where the frontier building, it's a steep drop down to there. So I think the client has done really worked hard to ensure that, one, it's a huge improvement to the property. Everything's appropriately screened and is not going to affect Bridgeport Avenue really at all. The other buildings, just so running through the floor plans here for the front building, if you look at the floor plan, there's the display sales area that's out front with a small little sales counter, and then a storage area that takes up the back half of that building. So it's really not a very large retail area. And then if you look at there's the elevations for the rear buildings, which have this masonry wall bottom with the metal buildings on top. And then you know, obviously you can see the garage bays there.
Mhm.
With regards to your special exception permit standards, they discuss the size and intensity of the proposed use. It's really not that intensive a use as far as the building contractor business goes, and compared to other industrial uses. You're going to have flurry activity in the morning when everybody's coming in and then taking the trucks to leave, and then you're going to have it at the end of the day. But during the day, it would really mainly be the retail building, which again is really not meant for the public. It's more for the building contractors. So it's especially compared to what's around there, because there's some very active industrial uses around there. This one will be one of the lesser ones. Other standards, the effect of the proposed use on the plan of conservation and development. As stated earlier, we feel this zone is appropriate under the POCD. This is now a permitted use via special exception permit in this zone. We think it's really a huge transformation for this property that was a misplaced single-family dwelling and now will be an industrial property that will service a need in the community, but will also help the tax base. The next standards with regard to the capacity of the adjacent feeder streets to accommodate peak traffic loads and any hazards created by the use. Again, there's really going to be only 2 peak times for this particular use. And we've had this discussion about the driveway and how we think that it's the best location and reduces any hazard for any type of accident. The effects, next standards with regards to the effect upon property values and taxable values in the neighborhood, and taking into account the character, location, and height of the proposed buildings, and site work. The transformation for the value of the property, I think, is tremendous. Single-family industrial use, it's much more appropriate. It has less demand on city services. So on that end, we think it's a complete transformation. And with regards to the building, this building's and the 3 proposed buildings all are conforming to the IA2 zone standards. So if the commission approves for this to go into the IA2 zone, we've eliminated the non-conformity of the property within the zone, but then also are constructing buildings that are conforming to your standards. The number, location, and arrangement of off-street parking spaces and the vehicular access to the lot. Yeah, we talked about the driveway, but also one of the things we liked about this design is that we were able to separate the parking areas for the retail. That's that front parking area that's got the 12 parking spaces, and then this parking area that's in the rear that will be for the contractor business use. And the remaining standards are with regards to fire and police protection needs, water supply, sewage disposal, drainage, erosion problems. We submitted a drainage plan, a grading plan, and our sewer plan, sewer line plan, and then we have access to water. And there's, we think, adequate, and Alan Shepard designed for adequate access for fire and police. So we feel we satisfy all your standards. And again, thank you for all your help with the amendment and feedback on the amendment, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Question I have is for the retail building in the front. Is that going to be something where it would be even open on a Saturday and Sunday, or is it, you feel it's strictly a Monday through Friday?
My client doesn't have hearing aids.
Probably
But no, I think not on Sunday. The use would not be on
I would
Sunday.
think a Saturday, I think some days a week.
Day of rest for contractors.
So possibly Saturday.
Possibly
Yeah.
Saturday.
I
Okay.
have one question on the design of the main building.
Could they address the construction of the buildings?
In what detail, Mr. Pianico?
Metal.
Well, what are they made out of?
One's metal, one's.
I mean, I got
wood.
pictures to look at, but I'd have to guess what the materials are.
Right, so on the front building, it is brick.
What's
Mostly
brick?
The
front.
first building,
The retail building, the
Yeah,
retail building that's in the front is brick on the facade.
on just the front or all four sides?
Shows all
looks all
four
four
sides.
sides. Yeah, according
Question
to
on the roof.
8-20.
Why? You have two dog houses.
I mean, there isn't a word on those drawings.
Mr. Pianico, I'm going to ask Attorney Russo to go into a little bit of detail on sheet A-2.0. We have the 4 elevations for the front retail building. And it
Yeah.
appears that the exterior is all brick. What about the roof? And he's going to answer that in a second.
It's a post and beam look. Yeah, that's open on the inside, on the outside, on the roof. What the roof is was asphalt shingles.
Okay, so asphalt shingle roof, brick
And-
veneer, and what were you saying about post and beam?
On the inside, it's gonna be an open, it's gonna kind of be an open look on the inside.
What was that?
Okay,
And then Commissioner Kelly's asking.
wait a minute, Mr. Pianico, go ahead, what was your other part?
No, I'm not hearing the acoustics from the podium are terrible. I can hear the commissioners well, but I don't hear the podium too well.
Mr. Panico, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's very foggy, so to speak.
Why don't they approach?
It's just the acoustics. That's all it is.
Yeah, he's got to come up to the head table.
It's rare for an Italian to be accused of being quiet. Mr. Panico, can you hear me now better?
Yes, much better.
All right, so on the front building, on the facade, it's all brick and it's brick all the way around.
Okay.
The roof is asphalt shingles
Mhm.
and the design on the interior, it's kind of like a post and beam look. So it's going to be open up to the top.
Is there any kind of cornice work at all? Are there gutters? Does the water just run off the roof? What happens to it?
Yeah, they're gutters.
Mhm.
I mean, they're very, very basic drawings.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't read what is the pitch of the roof? I'm trying to read it on that.
He's looking,
3 and 12,
12 and 5.
12 and 5.
12 and 5.
Yes.
Don't look like 12 and 5. The front is 12 and 5, yeah. The gable end is 12 and 5, but the main roof is not 12 and 5. Very flat. It's 3 and 12, it looks like.
They're looking at their display. Hold on.
Yeah, top right.
That's very flat for an asphalt shingle.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
12
he
and
can't see
5
that.
plus.
12 and 5 plus.
5 plus or minus.
Oh,
12,
Okay, and
plus
that's
or
on
minus.
sheet A2.0.
2.0.
In the top right corner,
Yeah.
should say that.
It doesn't, on the scan, it looks like it doesn't come up that well, but it's right here.
It's the back, same way.
Yeah,
The back is
Oh,
right
there
here.
it
You have
is.
12.5, 12.5. This gable, right, this right here is 12.7.
All right, now you see the two dog houses on that side. What's that on that side?
Like a skylight.
Yeah, there should be.
Oh, that reads better.
Shouldn't it, instead of having one on one side? wouldn't you have
Is it
one-
safe to say that the pitch on all those main roofs is 12.5?
we're gonna check the, Attorney Russo went back to the podium. Hold on.
It's just to add light into the.
Okay,
Space.
come on, back up.
Yeah,
Mr.
but-
Panico had a question. Is it safe, you were saying, Mr. Panico, is it safe to say
Is it safe to say that 12.5 is on all those main roofs?
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Then Mr. Commissioner Kelly had a question that we have 2 dog houses on the left and the 3 windows on the roof on the right, those
The only
are,
thing, Tony, I was thinking, it should be the same. no?
Should match.
I think so. Everything else matches.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's no issue with making it the same. Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
fine.
we could have a match.
yeah, it's just odd that, why
It is
make
odd.
it change? Why did present 2 different designs?
It's like having two
Well, I mean,
was
and
windows.
if you're gonna let natural light in, then the light, those on the right-hand side are preferable. to-
Probably
Well,
add more
then
light in.
change it to the other ones.
Just have them match.
Yeah,
Yeah, just not, whatever you
I don't think
want.
there's any. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just have one style.
Save on electricity.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Panico, anything else?
What about the buildings in the back? What are they made out of?
All right, we're coming to that next. Okay.
Okay,
Right, the
And what sheet?
building in the back, and that is sheet.
A-2.0.
That's the other sheet. It's A-2.0. So that is a masonry wall on the bottom.
The
And
foundation.
then
okay.
the foundation, correct.
The skirt wall, yeah.
And then it's metal, including an insulated metal roof.
Yeah, it's metal prefab.
Okay, so middle wall, middle roof. Okay.
And then and that carries around on all sides. And then obviously there's the garage bay doors, but then on the back, there's also exit doors.
Garage bays are on one side and
The garage bays would face the interior of the
Interior.
site and the
single
doors on the outside, which I'm guessing is for fire.
Mhm.
That there's an exit door out the back.
Mhm.
Is that a standing seam metal roof?
Standing seam metal roof? Is it
Or are they
standing,
just panels?
standing seam? Where's the panel?
It's panels.
He's getting the answer.
Panels.
Panels, Mr. Panico.
Okay,
It's a prefab, Tony. Probably metal building.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Panico?
not off the top of my head. I'd like to see full-size drawings. It's very difficult to work with the little ones,
Okay,
but I'll get them from Alex.
very good. Let me just ask any
Tell
of
me
the
about it.
commissioners that are participating remotely, have any questions for the applicant?
Not I.
No, I'm more addressed with Mr. Panico.
Okay, Commissioner Laskos, Commissioner Nafrio,
No questions.
Commissioner Yuxell. Okay, well, I think we did as much as we could tonight on this. So, any commissioner, oh, no, wait a minute. So is there anyone from the public here in the auditorium that wish to make a comment on this particular application? Okay, I'll ask again, is there anyone from the public here in the auditorium that would wish to make a comment on this application? Okay, moving to those participating on Zoom, Mr. Rossetti, is there anyone that's indicated that they'd like to speak? If there's anyone participating via Zoom, if you would like to make a comment on this application, would you please use the raise your hand function? Okay, last call for those in the auditorium. And last call for those participating via Zoom. Okay, so what's the feeling of the commission? Do you, the commission want to continue or close the public hearing?
I
Mr.
think we should close it.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly indicates closing, Commissioner Parkins is closing, Commissioner Motto
I agree.
for closing, Commissioner
Yeah.
Tiki.
Looking for anything additional doesn't seem
We
like
just wanted, I guess, Tony wanted to know if the driveway was approved by the engineer, but that's.
They could do that on the
yeah.
staff level. Yeah, okay. Commissioner Tiki
Yes, I would agree.
for closing, okay. Commissioner Laskos,
I'm agreeing with closing.
okay. Those are our regular commissioners And Chair would agree as well. So is there any commissioner that would like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion from Commissioner Kelly to close the public hearing for application 2130. Is there a second?
Parkins will second.
Commissioner Parkins is seconding. And on a roll call vote to close the public hearing for application 2130 made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Parkins. Commissioner Ticky,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto.
Aye.
Who am I missing besides
Me.
myself? Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So the motion to close public hearing has passed by a vote of 6-0. So this will be on an agenda for discussion at a upcoming meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate that time.
Okay. We'll be moving on to our next one, application 2206. Just a reminder, if there's anyone in the auditorium that would like to speak during the public portion of the public hearing for this application, if you'd like to speak, please sign up on the sheet that's indicated as number 2. So Commissioner Monaco, could you read the legal notice for this public hearing, please?
Sure. Initiation of application 22-06 PDD number 101, Good Guys Development LLC at Petromont Lane and 275 Coram Road. Assessors map 66, lots 22 and 23. For a major modification of PDD 101 for 100 apartments with on-site parking.
Okay, this particular application, 2206, was accepted for review on April 12th. Posted on the city's website is the application, site, grading, utility, erosion control, landscaping, lighting, and floor plans, 2 engineering reports, a traffic impact study, elevations, an artist rendering, sewage, inland wetlands, and excavation applications, and a letter from a local real estate agent giving an opinion on the suitability of the project. Mr. Rossetti, any other reports, materials, or correspondence that were received within the time period that we need to acknowledge for the record?
There were some reports from the city engineer and fire marshal, but they will be posted online soon.
Okay. All right. Right, so Attorney Bellis, you're here for the applicant.
I am.
Okay, identify yourself for the record and go ahead.
I'm Attorney Stephen Bellis. I represent the applicant Good Guys Development LLC. I don't know if you guys can hear me on the Zoom call, or should I step up?
Mr.
I can-
Canco,
Everyone can hear me? I'll try to keep my voice up. Okay. As you may all recall, Good Guys obtained a PDD number 101 for 47 unit apartments on July 13th, 2021. But at that time, we were not able to purchase the adjacent land because it was tied up in an estate. After the approvals, Good Guys was able to purchase 275 Coram Road and a vacant lot on the corner of Coram Road and Petromont. I'm going to turn to Exhibit 4. Alex, you have to put up the exhibits, or that's Manny. Thank you, Alex. So what we, so what was approved before was where Alex has his arrow. And what we purchased were those 2 lots that are along Coram. So now we are able to present the plan that we initially envisioned and are proposing to modify the PDD 101 to add these 2 newly acquired lots. Okay, so that's why I'm here. So with these lots, we are able to build an apartment building that tucks into the corner of the rear of the lot and has parking underneath the building and additional parking in front. So if you could show exhibit 6. Yeah. Yeah, that one's good. So this plan is obviously different than the one that we presented to you before, because at this time, there is, it allows the entrance, now has an esplanade with like a boulevard look that goes out to Coram Road. It also allows the sewer and water to connect right on Coram Road. So there's no need now to utilize the Petromont Road property. So this project is better and improved, but we couldn't do it at the time because we didn't own the land along Coram Road. So everyone that I've spoken to has agreed that this piece of property is an excellent location and use for an apartment building. If we can go to exhibit 5, you may remember that it backs up to the Sterling Pool little plaza. And one more, Alex. So that would be on Route 110. I call it the Sterling Pool because that's who the tenant is in there. So the property is right behind that. Alex, if you can go to the next photo. No, the one before it. Yeah, that's an overhead view. See, it says proposed site. So that's in green. We're across the street, if you look at Petromont, from Sorges Welding and Prestige Industrial Finishing. Those are the 2 properties on Petromont. And then across the street from Coram is Digital Commerce. So clearly this is a transitional piece to the residential area along Coram Road that goes towards downtown. And it basically is at the intersection of Constitution Boulevard and allows traffic to immediately go north on Constitution Boulevard to Route 8 or south on Constitution Boulevard to Route 110 and the Merritt Parkway. So I think last time you all found that this was a transitional piece, and that's why you allowed the PDD in the first place. Now we have, it's been about a year later, you probably have all read that Sikorsky Aircraft has obtained a big contract, government contract, and they plan on expanding. Sikorsky is only a couple of minutes from this piece of property down on Route 110. The apartments, we are told, are needed, and that that this part of town does not have any apartment buildings. We're told that all the apartments are fully rented, and that this location would be desirable and would be rented.
Who's the source of the,
We've talked to, he's going to, Pat Carey's
oh,
gonna
okay,
talk
so
to
from
us.
real estate
Yeah,
agents?
real
Okay.
estate agents, and Karen Berwick from real estate too.
Okay.
We also met with John Inglis and a few other people as well.
Mhm. Okay.
So the first one, we can go to exhibit 1, is a rendering that's before you. Yeah, right there. Yeah, okay. So before coming to this or filing the application, we met with we had work sessions with staff, and they had some suggestions. And I wanted to let you all know that we incorporated those suggestions. The first suggestion was that we elevate the building instead of keeping it on slab as we did in the first project, that we lift it up and put parking underneath it. You can't really see that from this rendering, but underneath the first floor is parking. Secondly, we lowered the building that faces Petromont and Coram. If you look at the last building, there's a dip from 5 floors to from the 5th floor to the 4th.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we put a rooftop lounge. Same thing on Petromont. If you go to the other building, it gets stepped down, and on the top is a rooftop lounge.
Top what?
Rooftop lounge. If you don't know what I mean, I did incorporate a rooftop lounge that I saw from New York. It's not the same as us. But basically a rooftop lounge just allows furniture, a lounge chair, some plants, seating, and for people just to congregate and relax. I don't know if you like the sun, maybe you get sun. But the idea is it's an outdoor recreational area that's on top of the roof. I call it a rooftop lounge.
And it's only on that wing facing
No,
Petromont?
both wings.
Both wings,
The
okay.
lower levels.
Is that what's over on the right-hand side?
Yes,
The
Yeah,
white,
this-
the white area up on, toward the top of the roof?
yes.
Here was it.
You have good eyes.
Hmm.
So
That's why.
the other thing that is all new. Additionally, I thought that a feature that would make it distinct would be what I call it a clock tower. Those are those brick towers in the middle that have a big clock on it. So that would be the thing. When Brennan Construction was prepping the site, he used a drone and in order to help with the elevations. And he said he went up to that level where the rooftop lounge was, and that you would have an excellent view of the bed of the river of the Housatonic River.
Mhm.
So that was a nice feature. So the other reason we had Brennan starting the prep work was when we were here last time, we wanted to know whether we could use some rock faces as opposed to building walls. So they're going to be doing what we call line drilling, which will allow us to keep some rock faces behind these buildings. And with the rest of the building kind of supporting the slope behind each building. So that's, I believe, an improvement from the last time that we were here. So in short, what we did is we designed the building and layout to make it a first-class building. We've estimated the cost to be around $20 million with an estimated tax revenue to the town of between $350,000 to $500,000 yearly. There are no 2-bedroom units in these units, so there's not likely to be school-age children or any taxing, that's not the right word.
Impact.
Impact on the budget. There are going to be 40 studio units, which is quite a bit for a building. A lot of people try to build as many 1-bedrooms as they can, but we were told that there's a need for studio apartments. So we're going to have 40 of them. There'll be 32 1-bedroom units and then 28 1-bedrooms with an office. I call those the COVID 1-bedrooms.
Mhm.
We have Pat Carey, who's going to speak in a minute. He's a longtime realtor in town, and he'll talk a little bit about some of the issues that I just raised.
So the residential areas, the floors are a mirror image of each other.
Yeah,
Based
the
on-
building, that's a good point.
Okay.
Building A and building B are identical, and except, no, they are identical. They each have their own elevator, they each have their own entrance, they each have the same number of units, and all the units are the same. They each have the rooftop lounge and all that. What we did that I don't think anyone else in town has done is we incorporated a lobby that is not part of those residential buildings. If you look at that white structure that's in between the two buildings, that's a lobby that is all facade of stone and glass. And in that lobby has all the, I call them amenities, that both building A and B could use. And there's such things as a lounge with a gas fireplace. There's a golf simulator. I don't play golf, but I guess you may believe me at the wall and you can see it. I don't know. There's a fitness center. I do use that, although it doesn't look good. I would use the gym. There's a lounge and a meeting room. There's going to be an Amazon room, in case you don't know what that is. Everyone knows.
Package delivery.
All right, you're so smart. Yes. If my wife were living here, it would take up half the room, so I can't let her be a tenant.
Is there any sort of kitchen in there for?
There's a kitchen area in the lounge area, where you can, I call it like a coffee nook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, it's-
really it's not for making sandwiches.
It's like a refreshment bar.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not for commercial cooking, catering.
So nobody could have a small gathering there.
No, that would be for the lounge. They might have that in the meeting room.
Okay. Does the meeting room have a kitchen?
No.
No, doesn't show it.
We'll invite a food truck.
That's a hit. It's always a hit.
No, but we put a lot into that. There's a mail room, there's an office, there's a big fitness center. There's 2 bathrooms for the public to use, or guests, I should say, seating areas. So I mean, it's a whole, I think, going to be well, and the idea is to make the lobby beautiful. So when you come in, it's going to be all trimmed and finished nicely with, fancy lights, and I don't know, we might even have, unless it's too slippery, like a marble flooring. The idea is to make it a really attractive lobby.
Upscale.
Upscale, absolutely.
Accessible 24/7.
Accessible 24/7, yes.
So you would have like key fobs.
Security.
Yeah, there'll be security, and there'll be also, well, later Pat will show you how you get into your residential units
Mhm.
without having to go through there.
Okay.
On the outside, the idea was to have a dog park so people could take their pets. Pat will go over where we located that. There's a picnic area with fire pits, and that will be kind of made into some landscaping with stones, so you sit around that, and it's gonna look nice. It's gonna be nice. We went to Wetlands and have certificates for that. We applied to the WPCA for the sewer hookup, and they indicated that they had capacity for 100 units, and it'll be gravity fed. They just wanted to know what the people approved before they approved the WPCA. It's an argument all the time with them. You're all
Chicken or the
nodding.
egg?
Yeah, right?
Mm.
Okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
No.
But they're on board, and they said it shouldn't be a problem.
No pool?
No pool. We have a traffic study, and I have our traffic engineer tonight. He'll talk about the traffic, which I don't think is much. It's limited, 37 trips in the morning, 39 in the evening. Before I have the speakers, we voluntarily agreed to make 10% of the units be affordable at the 80% median income. That's to do 2 things. I think it helps the town meet some of their thresholds for getting or encouraging developers to include affordable units without making this a state 830G application.
Mhm.
This is not 8-30G.
Mhm.
This is
Commissioner Ticky, I just couldn't hear that percentage. Can you please repeat that?
that's absolutely
10%.
clear. 10%.
So 10
10
units.
units.
Yeah, 10%, and that's voluntary. The other,
Mixed.
mixed,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, we learned from last time.
Yeah, you cannot
just
designate.
asking the question.
I know.
It's on the record.
You're on the record. Yes, I just wanted to make that clear. We have a letter from the engineer. That he thought the plan was acceptable. He had some questions. Items 1 and 2 had to deal with whether we were going to make any improvements with Petromont Road. We are no longer using that road at all, but I did talk to the city, and they requested that any improvements that need to be made on Petromont should be coordinated with the street committee and the Board of Aldermen. They would like to work with us on that. So rather than burdening this board with that, we'll deal with the aldermen.
So there are potential improvements.
Yes, yes. In fact, we already made one improvement, which was a safety concern. People were cutting across from Constitution Boulevard across Quorum Road
Mhm.
and going down Petromont. Didn't have anything to do with our project, nothing, it's not even built. So the mayor met Gary DeFloppo and I and our engineer and asked us to design a solution. We did. The city contributed, and they extended the curb along Quorum, so now you can't make that cutoff.
Mhm.
So we did that already. So that's why they want to work with them, and I have no problem working with them. So the other items in the engineer's letter, Manny tells me they're what's the word? standard, I don't know, he'll go over them. I'm not gonna take you through them one by one. The fire marshal looked at the plan, he approved it. It should be in your package. So, I'm losing my voice and I'm getting tired, so I'm gonna have to take a break and let Pat Carey come up to speak to you for a minute. And then I have Pat Rose, Kermit Ewa, and Manny. So we'll keep it brief. All right, Pat?
Yes.
You're on deck.
I'm already losing my voice, so I haven't started yet.
But before you do, identify yourself for the record.
Yes, Pat Carey, 6 Blueberry Lane, Shelton. I'm a real estate broker, carrying Guerrero Real Estate. A lifelong resident of Shelton. And I was asked to give an opinion on this development. And the first thing, some of this may be repetitive, but the first thing I noticed was the location. And since I tend to go, I think I'm the guy who was cutting across Petromont, they put the curve up for on my way to La Scalera. But what I noticed is that, in my opinion, it's not going to impact any residential area, because of the surrounding buildings pretty much are office or retail. The second thing that I noticed, and I'm not a traffic expert, but I thought, look, if you're going to put in an apartment building somewhere, in my mind, this is the ideal spot, since when you come out of there, you have almost immediate access onto 110 or Constitution Boulevard. You're not cutting through a neighborhood. And I've been in real estate over 40 years, and I know that traffic always is a major concern, and parking. And in my mind, again, they've answered the question regarding parking, since if this is approved, they have 2 parking spaces per unit, which I think is ideal. I've been involved in the community for many years, and I've been able to serve on Shelton Economic Development, and I'm not in any way speaking for them. But because of being on that board, I've seen what's been going on. I've seen the plans, the apartment buildings, the development along Canal Street. And when this all first started, I honestly thought this might be overkill. You know, how can you fill all these buildings? Well, I was wrong, because every one of these buildings that's been built, I've talked to various developers, and every one of the buildings is rented before they're finished, and they all have waiting lists. So there is an incredible demand for these buildings. And as Attorney Bellis noted, with this contract that Sikorsky has, I'm sure there's going to be some hiring there. And as you all know, there's a lot of development and a lot of companies moving into Shelton. So I would definitely believe that this building, if it's approved, will be rented before it's even finished, and they will also have a waiting list. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Nice question. I don't think you really addressed the parking, but since he brought it up, can I ask how many spaces you have indoors versus how many are outdoors?
I'll let the title go,
perfect.
if that's okay.
And well, I guess the question for you is, are you going to charge for the indoor spaces?
Now, how are you going to delegate?
The answer should be no.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
I'm not
No,
I'm not going to answer the question for you. Are you going to charge for indoor spaces?
Yeah. No, I don't think that would be that would be the case. Yeah. I think they get assigned so that at least one tenant would get one inside, and then I would think that the
We asked
other.
that
the outside
question,
space would
as
be-
we learned from Avalon, we asked that question.
Oh, okay. But I think that's the fair way to do it, right?
I do too.
You don't get 2 inside and none.
Right.
All right, we're on the
That's,
same
that's
page.
why I was wondering.
Oh,
about the
okay, I
ratio.
got it. Yeah. So Pat will go over all those things, but yes, I agree.
Okay, great.
Go ahead, Pat.
Good evening. Pat Rose from Rose Tizo and Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue, Fairfield, Connecticut, architect for the project. Alex, could I ask you to bring up the site plan, by any chance? We can talk about the layout of the site. What we've done in bringing this entry off of Coram with a boulevard, we've allowed ourselves to be able to, as you come in and hit the first intersection, you turn right or turn left, and that actually brings you around into the parking underneath the building. So it creates a circle all the way around, that you get all the way around, get back up, go out the left side, and you came in the right side. So I think that helps the circulation on site immensely. As you go further, then there's some other parking, there are electric vehicle spaces, there's gonna be visitor spaces probably up in there for where you're closer to the building, and don't have to walk as far if you're coming to visit. What we've done is create a center entrance into that common space between the two residential towers. That becomes the wow space, the sales space, for people to bring people through, and would be a place that you come in. Also, there are entrances on either corner of that which touch the residential tower. So that if you're coming in after hours, you don't need to go get your mail. You can duck into the other entrance, right to the elevator and go up. Or if you're parked underneath, you can go right to the door to the elevator and go up. So it's two different entrance sequences, whether you want to use those common space elements or not. So it makes it pretty convenient for a larger floor plan. In that common space, that like Steve had gone through with all the things that are in there, it's very, very well laid out, and better than most spaces or most apartment buildings that we've been working on in the area especially. You have 31 spaces underneath each one of those buildings. So 62 under cover. You're not going to get, everyone's not going to get one under cover. Not 100 of them available. Overall, there's 197 spaces that are provided on site. We've shown 12 of them to be deferred. That gets us to 185. The way we did the calculation associated with parking was 1.5 per studio, and then 2 for one bedrooms. So that gets us up to 180 spaces required.
So the deferred ones are the ones being built. I guess.
Correct, which gives us more green space against quorum. That's the purpose of it. Gives us more green space against quorum. We have a significant amount of green space along quorum.
Is that the hatch?
Yeah, the hatch portion, correct.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Exterior of the building, we've got picnic benches and grills, 2 of them close to the building, and then 4 or 5 of them out a little further, closer to Coram and Petromont. Those 2 different places. You have a dog working park behind the building on the edge of our site, so that you would walk up the slope, go into this gated area, which is separated by a rock, either a rock cut or retaining wall and another retaining wall. So you're isolated in there.
So the top right corner?
Top right corner, that L that you see.
By the end.
Alex, just point that out with your cursor.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right on top.
On the dog park.
The dog park corner there.
It's right on top.
Top right.
Top right.
There you go. Keep going.
Yeah.
So there's a fenced in area.
Yeah, so you have a fenced in area, a vestibule fence, and then you have the whole fenced in area along that comes back around the other side.
Got it.
So I think that is a great amenity for the site. You've got a total grade change of the story, so that in the back area, essentially the parking, you won't really see the parking as you're walking up that slope. It's going to disappear as you're coming from grade up, and it'll be flush around. You're not really going to see it until you walk by where it's open. You walk past the building, then you'll be able to see down into that parking area between the 2 buildings. You've got a significant slope as you go towards Route 110. whole. Be aware of that. So we have, what we spoke about before, we have 40 studio units. They range between 560 and 658 square feet. You have 32 one-bedroom units, which are 740 square feet. And then 28 one-bedrooms plus office, which are 1,032 square feet. So, Alex, could you bring up the floor plans? And I'll just go through it quickly. Like we had spoken before, this is the common area where you come in the center. You have, if you go to the right, you have a fitness area. Or to the left, you have a lounge that has the golf simulator, seating, a little bar. So straight ahead, you go into your mail area. In the back of the mail area, there's a package room. And then on one side of that is the office and a couple bathrooms. There's a dog washing station behind that. Then on the other side, there's a meeting room, and behind that is a corridor on either side that brings you to the rear of the common space, which has cages for storage. And then in front of that, there's an electrical room that services both halves of the building.
How many storage cages are there?
When we laid it out, we got about 20, 22 storage cages. It depends how big you make it. So as you can see, it works very well with the end of the building on either side. You have a vestibule, brings you right into the lobby, right to your elevator on either side, or you go get your mail, go down the hallway, go into the vestibule. Next floor plan.
So that package room makes it a dead end right there.
Yeah, it's at the end of the mail room. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have to be split out. Okay.
And we put a little wall there so it hides the mail room, so things are tidy, then you don't see that as you walk in the door.
All right.
Each one of these floor plans is the same, associated with this first, second, and third floors of each half of the building. That you have the elevator, 2 stairways, and you have a garbage chute on one end of the building. There's a garbage room in each building, which is accessed from the front by a roll-up door, so it's very convenient for pickup. The ends, the corners of the building are the 1-bedrooms with office, and then you have the studios and 1-bedrooms between that. There are 13 units per floor per building. Until you get up to the 4th floor, 11 units per floor per building, because the end of the building that faces Forum, that faces Petromont is a roof deck. That roof deck has areas which are open that you can see out, and some areas have roofs, so you have some privacy. There's a mixture of what you can see off of that roof deck.
What's the approximate area of the roof deck?
Oh,
I can't read the.
1,200 square feet,
Okay.
20 by 60.
All right.
It's got to be the.
Yeah, the width of the building, I can't read it.
Well, it's good size.
Yeah.
And why don't we go to the rendering house if you just wait a.
What's the heat source?
Heat source, we've been going back and forth. It's probably going to end up being electric. Almost all the buildings that are doing lately have been heat pumps. They're so efficient and the buildings are so tight that it doesn't really reflect significantly in your electric bill.
Is there any way that the lower level where the parking is under the building, is there any way we can conceal it a little bit more from the street view?
With the topography of the site, I don't know, Tony, that you're going to see a lot of it because you're down significantly from on Coram.
I don't like a building that looks like it's sitting on stilts.
Right, right. I mean, we could possibly, have screen walls on the first two bays that go from the lobby out, because that's what you'd see really. And then on the end of the building,
Yeah.
kind of the end of the building, those are the things that you'd see. You could have screen walls there, 3.5 feet high.
I was also thinking from where the entrance to the parking area is.
Right, right, on the
Bring in
side.
wing walls from the sides a little bit.
Yep, same thing on the side, and just so it's an L, essentially we have an L of a screen wall.
Okay.
I need to go, yeah, we can do that.
Any way of getting more masonry into the outside of the building?
Well, why don't we go over that whole building exterior now?
Right. So what we've done with materials on the building is the lower level, where we have this possible screen wall and where we have the columns, that's stone. We put stone up to 3.5 feet high.
Is that on A?
Where is the
201?
stone? Pat, where is the stone?
Hold on, he's looking.
This is around I gotta get that. If you were to look on A201, Tony, there's actually.
I don't have it in front of me.
On the ends of the building.
Okay, it's up on the screen.
Up on the top. Front and core.
Okay. Okay, now where is the, where's the stonework?
See the stonework down the lower section on either side of that driveway into the.
Okay, yeah.
That stone, and then each one of those columns, as you go around the building, has a stone base to it.
It's very similar to the columns that are on outside of Big Y.
I'm sorry?
Very similar to the columns that are on the outside of Big Y.
Yeah, somewhat, yeah, certainly. So there's stone bases there, and we have that stone is also reflected in the Commons building, that the lower section of the building and in between the windows is stone.
Mhm.
So the lower level, that's what you see is stone. We chose to use brick for that tower, which is the elevator tower, because it's a little more emulating
Thin brick.
an older type building. And plus, I think the clock reads better with brick than it does with stone. The rest of the materials in the building, we're going to use a simulated wood for that band between the parking and the 4 residential stories above.
Mhm.
Then we have 3 levels of vinyl siding up to vinyl shingles on the 4th floor
Mhm.
and up in the and then you have the mansard roof at the top, which is an architectural fiberglass asphalt shingle.
The horizontal siding, what is that, Pat?
Vinyl siding. The
Vinyl?
horizontal- Yes, sir.
One of the benefits of screening on the garage below is that during snowstorms, the snow is less likely to blow in.
It's like a snow
Which
fence.
provides, less work for maintenance people to have to clear it, and also people don't have to clean up their
So
cars.
what we could do in this corner, see on the lower portion there, those 2 sections, we could put the screen wall there. They really won't see it. The rest of it's really going to be buried
Mhm.
as you go up and behind.
Cameras,
Pat, those square elements on the, are what, vents?
The square elements are vents that we're showing, but the reality becomes is that if we go to heat pumps, they won't be there.
Okay. So that's your HVAC unit?
Yeah, that's where the rooms are. Correct.
Is that a projecting unit?
No, it's a unit that sits off of the deck, actually. Avalon, that's where all the Avalon units are. They sit off of the deck. We would put it, if it becomes heat pumps, those grills go away, and there's still a heat pump in the same room.
There's a doorway access from the porch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, in the back.
Mhm. Okay,
Does that exist on any of the other buildings in town that it could be looked at?
the
Yeah,
Avalon
if you look at,
downtown,
um,
Marion.
Brookview has them, Avalon has them.
Mhm.
Balconies on all units?
Balconies on all units, yes.
Is that like a sliding door, sliding glass door for the balcony? Or is that just a thing?
Because when we started out this, going with gas, we needed those rooms and they were gas.
Could you get a picture of an installation so we just have an idea what it looks like finished?
Okay, yes, I can provide that.
Great.
My next presentation, I can show you. So I'll let
And You're
Manny
gonna look at trying to get a more skirt wall on the visible parts of the garage?
Yes, Tony. Yep, that can be done.
Okay.
I'll let Manny go through the direct storm drainage.
Good evening, Manny Silva from Rose Teazon Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue, licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. So if you just bring up SP2, I think everybody talked about the site plan already. So, I mean, basically what Pat and Attorney Bellis are going over was that we have an esplanade entrance, so we really have kind of two driveways and a kind of a landscape area in between.
Go
So the
close
site,
to the mic.
yes, I will. I'll eat it. So here's SB2. This is our grading and utility plan. As you can see from the previous application, we still have to come in. We have to deal with that hill that we have to come into. So basically, the site is going to be lowered to about a 2.5 to 3% grade. So it's basically going to be a flat parking field in the front. And then we have our building that's built into the grade behind it. So the first floor, basically the parking area is going to be buried. It's going to have a wall. And then your units on the residential units on that second floor, which is above the parking, will be at grade on the backside. And what we have is then the ability to have that dog park area, which is that flatter area. It's going to be a flat area between the two retaining walls, and it's going to have a double gate, so you don't lose your dog. You can leash them there and then pull them out of there, and then there's another one on the other side as you walk around. And again, that's all fenced in. The dogs will have a great time out there. They can be, actually, that's kind of like a cool dog park because they have kind of like a run instead of like a square.
Did you ever hear of something called fly ball?
Yeah.
It's
That's perfect. And you can bounce the
Or
ball off the
agility.
wall.
Yeah. Not to be funny, but there's been some consideration as to how high of a fence you would be providing.
Yeah. I think, so normally you don't use like a 6-foot fence for a dog park. So you use 4-foot fences, or you want 5?
No, I'm telling you, if you have a husky,
Okay.
huskies climb wall
Oh, yeah,
fences,
well,
you know.
that wall in the back is
Yeah.
15 feet, so I don't
Okay.
think kind of that, but
Yeah.
we'll have consideration for that lower fence, make sure we're high inside.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, the grade of the site, if you can zoom out, Alex, kind of goes from the upper right-hand corner down to the left. So we want to collect all that with those storm drain catch basins
Mhm.
on the perimeter of the property. And then we have the stormwater gallery system there in 2 pieces, right there at the corner. That's where our recreation area is going to be. As you can see, there's a flatter area there. That's where we're going to have our grills and seating areas. And they're going to have a stormwater gallery system underneath that they'll never know about. So that is about 752 lineal feet of 4x4 gallery. So that's basically these large open bottom tanks underneath that landscaped area that's going to be there. And that will have basically reduce the volume from the existing condition and increase the water quality that's coming off the site currently. So the 10-year storm will have a 3.1% reduction from the existing condition. At the 20-year storm will have a 6.8% reduction. At the 50-year storm will have a 14.2% reduction, and we'll meet the 100-year storm, so it'll be exactly the same as it is right now, which is the wooded area. So there won't be any additional water from today. So the water that's coming off the site will be less after we build this than there is today.
I was just gonna ask, what exactly are the current conditions for water and drainage and everything? There is
Right now, the water just comes right down.
It's all
In fact,
surface.
There's a stream It's kind of, it comes down as like a stream when it rains.
Mhm.
Because it's rock, it just sits, it just runs right off.
So it's surface.
Yeah, it's almost like an impervious surface, even though it's wooded. And it comes down across the Pecheron lane and onto the neighboring property owner, which he has a concern about that. So we assured him that what we're doing here, we're actually gonna have that area just where you see the slope underneath where those galleries are. We're lowering that grade as you can go out there right now. You can see that so that we can impound more water in there so it doesn't go over Pecheron Lane. And we're also collecting a lot of that water underneath those 700 lineal feet of a 4x4 gallery, which is 4 by feet tall and 4 feet wide. And that will be, all that water will be stored underneath the ground there, almost like a pool. After this is constructed, those issues with water coming across Pecheron Lane will be virtually gone. So if you go on to the next slide or sheet, that's our storm erosion control plan, which is implemented. You can go out there and look at it right now. So we have a perimeter silt fence with hay bales. And we have some swales for directing water towards our pond there. That's in the bottom left-hand corner. We have a surface pond that's a temporary sedimentation basin. Again, that's just to hold the water and let all the sediment drop out of it, and so it doesn't come out to Pecheron or Quorum. We have silt sacks on all the catch basins on Quorum and Pecheron Lane in case there is any overflow, which there won't be. And we have check dams, hay bale check dams, which is those V's going along our swales that collect the water that comes into the temporary sedimentation basin. So if you go on to the next one, that's our landscaping plan. So basically we have our esplanade with some low growing base plantings. And then we have street trees along Quorum Road and Petremont. We then have some ornamental trees within the islands with some low English yews and things of that nature, and azaleas on the below the tree, and made sure they are all domestic. There's no Korean dogwoods like I usually put in.
I was just gonna call on Commissioner Motto.
Yeah. So there's no Korean dogwoods this time. So then we have along the back there is some evergreen trees kind of to screen the wall, the top of the wall there. Yeah, that's basically the landscaping plan. We will have that deferred parking. If it is deferred by this commission, it'll be prepped. It'll have the base put in, but then we'll topsoil and put some grass seed on it, so it'll grow a lawn there. And if the parking is a problem, we have to take it up. We just have to scrape that 6 inches of topsoil with the grass and then pave it, because the subgrade will be in place already. That's how we would do that. On to the next one.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
And how, what about the dog area? What are you gonna use for base? Because if you got dogs running back and forth. all the
Yeah,
time, You
so
got some
there's 2 ways of doing it.
Damage.
One, you use grass.
artificial.
But if they start wearing that out, obviously they would in this case, because it is kind of a linear run, you would use a turf.
Yeah.
Yep. And I envision a turf being perfect.
Might as well just,
Say it now.
so, I can't take any comments from the audience. Ma'am, when at the public hearing, it will be, when it's a public portion. All right, go ahead.
So yeah, at this, I think that will end up being turf, because of the narrow nature of it. So the next is the details, I believe, or maybe the lighting plan. It's just standard details. You've seen all these before. Parking striping, with handicap ramps, handicap signing. Onto the next one, please. And then this is the soil erosion control details. As you can see, the silt sacks to kind of keep sediment out of the catch basins, the reinforced hay bales with silt fence in front, so that we have protection along the roadways. And then there's our temporary sedimentation basin. I'm having trouble saying that tonight. And that's over by the corner of Petremont Quorum. And then our standard utility details like manholes and catch basins. And then we have 2 oil water, storm water scepters to kind of clean, to clean the waters, remove sediment and floatables, bottles, oils, things of that nature before it goes into the gallery system so that we have clean water being infiltrated into the ground with the gallery system. And then on to the next one. Then we have snouts also, so that's a part of our treatment train. This is a retaining wall detail. Obviously, from what's out there in the site that we'll be finding, we're not going to need it. It's most likely going to be a rock face, but there will be some opportunity where we have some overburden that's going to be taken up by some of these larger gravity walls. If you go on to, so our lighting plan, obviously, we've designed the lighting so that there's no light infiltration off our property. Everything stays on our property. It's zero. You see there's zeros at the property line all the way around. So there was some standard comments from this town engineer. First one was about I would say like the first 5 was about improving Petromont Road. The first one was about widening Petromont Road, and I think Steve kind of addressed that. Moving a pole on Petromont for widening, Steve addressed that. The sight lines are good on site. In fact, I measured them last week. Looking right, you're about 681 feet, so that's well above 50 miles an hour. It's looking left, it's 277, and that's to the intersection. You can see all the way to the intersection in Constitution Boulevard, and that's, you can't look any farther than there, so that's good. The next thing was he asked if we were going to have an emergency access. What we believe is because we S1 that entrance, if one gets blocked, you have the other one as an access way. If we had to, if the fire marshal, which he didn't require an emergency access, but if he were to, if you look right there where that driveway is, where it says lane and Petromont Lane, right there, that's level with, that's going to be right on grade with Petromont Lane. So we could put a gravel or grass road paver emergency access way there if we had to, but the fire marshal isn't requiring it. He had a question about downstream defenders, if there's going to be 2 of them. There's going to be one for each gallery bay. I think you just missed it on the plan, but I clarified that for him.
What are they called?
He called them downstream defenders.
Oh.
We use a brand called Storm Scepter. It's just brands. It's like sheetrock, right? It's really gypsum board, but everybody calls it sheetrock. Is overflow for the infiltrators, really their galleries required? Yes, and we have an emergency overflow that's connected to a catch basin on the corner of Corum and Petromont. But again, there's not going to be much water coming out of that overflow because the gallery system is so large, it's going to hold a whole lot of water before it comes overflowing out of there. Are the galleries going to have access ports? In fact, it does show them. I have manholes on every run, on each end of every run. So we're okay with doing that. He asked for a typical section of the 4x4 galleries. He calls them infiltrated, but they're 4x4 galleries. It's on SP2. A guardrail should be installed on Petromont Lane. I agree. So like right where we were talking about the emergency access way, those parking spaces along there should be a guardrail. And if there's an emergency access way, there would be an opening in the guardrail. He had some questions about some elevations. I rectified it and I detailed how we're doing things there in that corner, upper left-hand corner. Will the deferred parking be grass, stone, pavement, catch basins to be integrated into the system? So what he's saying is that we have some catch basins at the deferred parking. So if you're going to defer the parking, is going to be landscaped, those catch basins stay there. I say yes, because we want it to be as easy as possible to make that to pave parking later. So what you do is you grass that, but you make it without curbs, right? So the water just kind of comes onto the grass and then into the basin, even though there's grass there. So it'll be like, it'll look like a catch basin in the middle of the grass, or a yard drain. But then if we have to pave that and make that parking later, it's so much easier because the basins will be there already.
Right.
That's number 13. 14 was the pavement. You asked me to show them the pavement widths for Corum and Petromont and Constitution Boulevard. I added that as a separate sheet. And he asked me to change the pavement note just to say to read the minimum thickness is a 4-inch thickness for existing pavement which is whichever is greater. So it literally says minimum thickness to be 4 inches or match thickness of existing pavement. So I just changed that in the detail, and we have no issues with that. So is there any questions for me?
So circular traffic around the buildings are going to be two-way, correct?
Correct. Yep, so everything's 24-foot aisles, actually 26-foot aisles, so it can have two-way, absolutely. That's
Garage-
20,
So the
20, yeah,
garages are also two-way.
yes, yep. The 24-foot aisle, so it could be two-way.
Is access under the building controlled?
Not that I know of. So there's not gonna be gates underneath there or anything. There could be, I'm sure. And there could be a gate at the main entrance, in fact, you know, so, it's really up to the owners.
Management may deem it necessary if they've only have so many indoor parking places.
Right, it's one of those things
Unless
that
you've got
happens after
some
the fact. Yeah.
method of monitoring
Controlling
that
it.
could become.
An issue.
It really
Madam
could-
Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Panico.
I just had a couple of questions if I could.
Sure.
Could we get the grading plan up?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, good. Move it down just a little bit. No, the other way. So I can, right, that's good, right there. That grass area between your curb on the onside curb and the street. It looks like you're kind of cutting it back and it's opening it up to view. Could we just regrade that area and create a berm for landscaping so we can minimize the impact of that big parking area when you drive
Yeah.
down Coram?
Yeah, again, our deferred parking is gonna expand
You
that.
got quite a bit of room there, so just loop that 90 contour down and back and stuff like that.
Yeah, what we could do is what I've done before is do kind of a landscaping berm that's kind of mulch topsoil and some boulders. And it'll just create like almost like a 4-foot wide or more, 5-foot wide.
Just something that could roll up
Yeah, you
and
can-
down.
Yeah, you can.
And
plant-
then we can incorporate the planting to reflect it.
Yeah.
I don't know that you could do much on the other side, but that particular area has the largest parking lot if it were to be fully built.
Yeah, we can do a screening berm, absolutely. Yeah.
In your circulation plan, is it the intent that it be free circulation throughout under the building at all times, or is it controlled some way?
So as of right now, we have you can go free. Yeah, you go in and out whenever you want. But if it becomes, I mean, I'm sure the management becomes a problem, management will have to do something, but we don't envision right now that we need to control that access.
Okay. Did I hear you indicate that you're considering an emergency connection?
No, the fire marshal would require it, which we have a letter from the fire marshal. saying
It's
that-
probably a good idea.
Again, we already have a place picked out for it if someone wants it.
Well, where that spot is though, if there was a fire, that the fire department could basically just park on Petremont,
Correct.
right?
It's just, yeah, it's pretty close.
Right, just
Yeah.
like if it's flat, they could just park right in the middle of the road, and like they do anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, if something like this was on fire, they wouldn't want to bring their trucks that close to the building. anyway.
That's probably an ideal location for it.
Yeah, that's where it is right there. That's where it would be if we needed one. Yep. It's level and the water lines come through there already, so.
I think some way, somehow, though, we need to be sure that we put something physical across there so it doesn't get abused.
Right, that's where we
A
would
couple of
have.
sections of fencing
We're
or
gonna have a
something.
guardrail there. We're gonna have a guardrail there along that curb. But if there is an emergency access way required by someone, we would put a gate or a chain or something across that area where the guardrail breaks.
You're gonna have chargers, electric chargers.
Yeah, if you look on SP1, if you look at right there, zoom in, yeah. Like there's 4 bays for EV charging.
Oh, yeah, there they are.
I don't know if you can put a gate underneath the,
So you just lost 4 spaces there.
I think you
So
can.
So if you don't have, so if
Huh?
you want those 4 spaces back, you gotta use the deferred parking.
Well, then
Yeah,
how do you get to the
that's-
back parking areas?
It's like, I guess that's my question. Why do you feel that you need to defer them?
We don't, we just thought that if that area along Quorum, if you wanted more green space, you can defer them because we are over parked slightly because of the calculation that Mr. Bellis had said. We have 1.5 per studio, 2 per 1 bedroom.
Mhm.
That makes us over parked. But if you say you want 2 for each or whatever, then we'd have to.
How many handicap spots are inside the park, at the inside parking
We have 4 undercover,
total? So 2 for each building?
2 for each building and then 2 outside. So it's a total of 6 spaces, right? 25 per, so we have 2, say if we have.
So you can't assign those spaces to anybody, so you've just lost 4 in your garage. You've just lost 4 underground spots.
Yeah, I have no problem making
Can't
that.
assign them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't want you to think we don't want to pave that and use that parking. It was only if the commission wanted it.
No, and I appreciate how you're setting it up so that it can be immediately resolved.
Yeah,
if
we
you
don't-
need that
We're
parking.
not trying to get away from not doing it. I personally prefer more parking. But we were hearing from staff that they'd like us to reserve some area for green. So
When you-
either way, I don't want you to think that we're not willing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do about trash pickup? Where's that on the
That's,
property?
I think Pat could address that. There's a drop.
That you can, if you just zoom out a teeny bit, Alex, to be able to, that you can see it to the top of the screen and to the bottom. There's a trash room on either
Oh, okay.
end of that aisle that's
Yep.
closest to the building. The trash room, there'll be a pullout,
Mhm.
an overhead door, pull it out, pick it up.
Okay.
The last speaker we have is Kermit Hua. He's an engineer. He's going to go over a little bit about the traffic.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Kermit Hua, KWH Enterprise LLC, Meriden, Connecticut. I will just briefly go over the traffic report. What we have changed since the last approval is now we have the access on Coram Road compared to the previous access on Petromont Lane, which is a big improvement. As you know, Petromont Lane, because of the width, if you direct 100% of the traffic to Petromont Lane, it's sort of a challenge. Now we have the benefit of having the driveway on Coram Road. If you think about it, if you want access to Route 8, you can use Coram Road, you can use Constitution Boulevard South. If you want to go to Sikorsky, you can go southbound on Constitution Boulevard South, then, arrive at the intersection of that road with Route 10. So most of the traffic will stay away from Petromont Lane. Only a small portion of it will use Petromont Lane as a result of this change.
Is
So
that due to just because of the layout of the road system? It's
Right, and the destination in relation to where the driveway is.
Destination.
We don't have to go, most of the traffic doesn't have to go through Petromont Lane. Just in terms of the total amount of traffic, weekday morning, we are looking at 37 trips, weekday afternoon, about 39 trips. There will be no issue as far as the level of service for people to getting in and out of the driveway on Coram Road because the volume is not that high on Coram Road. So we are looking at levels of A and B at the driveway during those peak hours. Just for the disclosure, there are existing delays for traffic getting out of Petromont Lane onto Route 110 and also westbound traffic towards the Coram Road intersection and Constitutional Boulevard intersection. These are existing, situations, and they will remain after we are here. So just in terms of incremental changes, as a result of this development at those 2 locations, they will be minimal. And so overall, I'm not looking at very significant traffic impact in terms of the result of this project. That's all I have for now, Madam Chair, if you have any questions.
I don't, any other commissioners participating remotely have any questions for Mr. Hua?
No.
No traffic questions.
Okay,
Is the traffic report online?
yeah,
Yeah, everything, I've attached, I'm not gonna go through it, but I've attached all my exhibits. And if you want to review any of them, they're listed 1 through 14 in your packages. I kind of summarized that here at the hearing. But we have nothing else. We have no other speakers. If you have any questions, I know you've been interjecting a few, but otherwise, we've concluded our presentation.
okay. Any questions for the applicant from anybody participating remotely, any of the commissioners?
I have just a simple question, I think. The height of these buildings, are they the same as the original
Yeah.
project approved?
The height, as I understand it, in a PDD, the maximum height is 60 feet, and we're below 60 feet.
And how does that compare, though? I think Commissioner Mata wanted to know with what had been approved.
Yeah, I think at the levels, if you're looking at Petramont and Quorum, those buildings were on grade, but we've lowered that building where you have the rooftop lounge, so visibly.
How about if I ask, sorry, I'll ask how many stories? Is it the same number of stories?
Yeah, I don't know if you can
Plus
see
the
the
garage.
rendering.
Four.
Yeah, there's 4-story building.
Plus the garage.
Yeah,
That's
Right.
the garage, right.
So say it into the microphone, because,
go ahead.
It's a 4-story residential building on top of the parking, which is partially buried.
and that compared to what had been approved previously
Approved previously was a
for,
4-story building.
4-story building.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's a half a story.
Yeah.
long.
What is the height of the highest element?
59 feet, I believe.
59 feet. Is that okay, Mr. Panico? Any other questions?
No, I was confused because it was only on the lower end that it was dimensioned.
Oh, okay. Mr.
How much-
Rose, do you want to clarify that? And Commissioner Mata, just wait a minute.
Yeah,
The rooftop height to the highest point of the mansard roof is 59 foot 1.5.
Mhm.
The peak of the elevator tower is higher, but it's also higher because it's the elevator tower and it has a.
Well, that part's all right. We can deal with that.
Mhm. Okay. All right, Commissioner Mata?
yeah, I was thinking, how much acreage did you gain with this acquisition of property?
Approximately 1.5 to 2 acres with both lots.
Mhm.
And how much was the original piece?
Up to 8.
2. So you
Correct.
you basically doubled your,
Roughly, approximately.
Yeah, I think it's 10 for,
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
and
But it was, we always wanted those pieces because of the access to quorum. It was just a legal inability to get it.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
and you roughly doubled your number of apartments.
Yes.
The density is pretty comparable to what you had before.
Yes.
If this were approved, pretty much as submitted, would you be building the entire complex at once, or would you do one of the buildings?
I think the bank usually dictates that, but the concept would be to build, prepare the whole site, put in the foundation for both buildings, and pave it. Then that would be done simultaneously along with the lobby. Then you would build one building, either A or B, I don't think it matters, to completion. And then you move on to do the next building.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Anybody else from the commission have any questions for the applicant? Okay. If
Thank you very much,
If
everyone.
not, we're going to go out into the public portion. If there's anybody in the audience has any questions, as I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, the protocol is you need to sign in and then come to the podium, state your name and address, and then you could direct your question to the head table.
Term for us? Yes. Where's the food?
I know. I have all the drinks. Okay, it's the sheet that's number 2. There you go. Yep. Anybody else in the audience that wishes to address the commission on this? Okay, and then also, if there's anyone that from participating remotely, if you could use the raise your hand function and indicate to Mr. Rossetti, and we will call upon you. Go up to the podium, okay? Go right up to the mic, pull the mic down.
My name is Lois Bryant. I'm a Wakely, was our farm. Know the property well. I just arrived home last night from South Carolina. My sister Phyllis Wall, she's an adjacent property owner, as I am. And her concern is, and I'm just speaking for her as of last night because she couldn't be here, that her concern is the water has always run down through and out toward Edgemont Lane. That was why I was trying to get you to move the screen so I could see.
Yeah, they'll help you. Go ahead.
If I could just see that to be sure that that's addressed. And Steve, we know each other.
Yeah.
And I am so pleased to see what has been proposed.
Okay, so we have Mr. Silva, you have the appropriate.
So I have the question as to our property, and I was trying to get it to move the.
Yeah, so here, I know you have this water, this comes out of the pipe here, right? It comes down across the property right now. And so we're gonna pick it up, we're gonna pick up that little intermittent stream of these 2 catch basins here. And bring it down into our system. And store that water.
Okay, Manny, put the, down.
I'm gonna show the commission now, okay?
Okay, yes.
That's her real concern.
Right,
Yeah.
so there's a intermittent kind of stream that comes out of some pipes right here.
Mhm.
That comes down across the property and then there's a little crossing here. So what we're doing is we created like a kind of a basin, 2 catch basins inside, kind of a depression.
Yep.
And we're gonna catch that water coming out, so it's gonna be kind of like a little bit of waterfall coming down into these double basins.
Also where the Mazziola.
Chair, can Manny De Silva speak into the microphone?
Sure.
The Mazziola piece and the culvert piece matched at the corner, just a few feet below that. If you look at the old house, if you go out the old kitchen door, there was a spring out there, and they were all springs, all down through there. And the water used to all come down through.
Yeah, so I'm gonna speak into this thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, so we did identify those springs that kind of run down the rock in that area. So that's why we put those double basins there. And then we have kind of like a waterfall, kind of like, so the rock it's gonna be a rock face that's kind of tiered, and it's gonna create like a kind of a waterfall to that double basin, which then is gonna collect all that water and then put it into the system. And it's no longer gonna go to Petromont directly, so that we're gonna try to hold that in our infiltration gallery system also and get that into the groundwater versus it running off of the rock or that swale that's coming down right now.
I am a retired real estate broker, many years. If I could have seen it too, that was really her biggest concern.
Yeah, we caught it early on when we did our site visit. And we saw that during rain events or even without rain events, there was some water coming down off of that slope. So we're gonna pick it up. with our stormwater design.
Okay. Anything else, Mrs. Bryant?
No, I thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the commission, ask any questions regarding this application? Okay, Mr. Rossetti, is there anybody from the public? From remotely? No? Okay, last call for anyone from the participating remotely from the public that would like to ask a question regarding this application. Please use the raise your hand feature. And last call for anyone here in the City Hall auditorium. Okay. All right, any other final questions for the applicant from the commission or Mr. Panico?
No, but when I look at it, the drawings more carefully, I might have a few.
Okay,
But procedurally, I'd like to know, maybe Alice can answer it. Are we approaching this as directly into detailed development plans, or is it going to be a two-stage approval?
It's a one stage.
yeah, it's a one stage, going right into detail.
Then we have to make sure we get everything addressed. Okay.
Yes, yeah, so we would
It'll
leave
take us a
the,
little longer to get everything finalized, but
right. So the recommendation would be to leave the public hearing open so that we could ask questions of the applicant?
well, no, obviously staff can get their questions
Yeah,
answered.
I know, but is there, so, all right, so let me ask the rest of the commission, what you're feeling. Do you feel that you've received enough information to close a public hearing, or would you like to leave it open? Commissioner Kelly?
I don't feel there's a need to keep it open.
Okay, so close.
I just don't know what other additional information we would be looking for. We've
That's
already
right.
gotten the report
have
from
it.
the fire marshal.
Mhm.
I think they pretty much answered most of our questions.
Okay, so commissioners that are participating remotely, Commissioner Motto?
Yeah, no, I think if we don't have any questions now, we're not going to have any questions at another session. So I think we're square.
Commissioner Ticky?
Yeah, I do think the proposal has doubled in size, so I want to still take a look at it, and I might have questions which can be directed to staff. It's still quite sizable. So if it is closed tonight, I will continue to ask my questions through staff.
Okay, that definitely is an option. And Commissioner Laskos?
I still had a question on the parking, the 197 spots. The 12 deferred is not included in that number?
It is.
It is.
It
It
is.
is, yes,
It'd be 180 total.
No, it is included.
it is.
It is.
It is included,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is included.
But once you defer it, there'll be 180.
Yeah, if it's deferred, it's 180. If the commission says we'd like you just to build it, we'll build it.
Mhm.
Okay.
To answer your questions.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose when you are doing your calculations. 40 times 1.5 for the studios is 60 spaces, and 62 bedroom apartments times 2 is 120. So
I went to
there's,
Darien High, and it
Yeah.
was the #1 high school. Sorry.
I know, but I'm just making sure that
But
everybody
in reality,
understands.
you lost 4 for the handicap spaces inside, and you lost
Yes,
4 for
for
the
the
charging
Yeah.
stations.
Yeah.
You lost 8
Yeah, it's
spots.
up to the commission. We have no problem either way. I just want to make that clear.
All right,
I would prefer that the deferred parking be completed.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mhm.
And beyond that, I'm okay with closing the public hearing.
Okay, thank you for your comments on that. Yeah, you get 12 spaces, so that will help. Okay. All right, so is there any commissioner that would like to make a motion to close the public hearing? There's a motion from Commissioner Kelly to close the public hearing for application 2206. Is there a second?
Commissioner Laskos will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Laskos. So on the motion to close the public hearing, made by Commissioner Kelly and seconded by Commissioner Laskos, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Right.
Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion is passed 6-0. So this item will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting for discussion.
No
Thanks
comments.
a lot.
received.
No, I had asked at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And our third public hearing, Commissioner Mata, would you read the legal notice, please?
Zach, I have to pull up my sheet here.
And if there's anyone in the audience that feels that they will be making a comment, come on up this time and sign in, or you could wait.
Okay. Initiation of application 22-08 PBD number 86, Stephen Bellis for Brookview Apartments LLC at 303 Old Bridgeport Avenue, Assessors Map 91, Lot 16, for a major modification of PDD number 86 for 30 apartments with on-site parking.
Okay, this public hearing for application 2208 was accepted for review on April 12th, 2022, and posted on the city's website is the application, statement of uses and standards, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and site engineering design report. Mr. Rossetti, any other reports, materials, or correspondence received within the time period that we need to read them? Oof. All right, I will ask him when he gets back. Now you see him, now you don't. He didn't ask to be excused. Shame on him. Okay. All right, Attorney Bellis, I guess you are representing the applicant.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
For the record, I'm Attorney Stephen Bellis. I represent Brookview Apartments LLC with the Pellegrini Law Firm at David and the Shelton resident for way too long. I represent Brookview Apartments, which is owned by Jim Blakeman, and he's here with me tonight. Brookview Apartments obtained a PDD number 86 and built an apartment building with, I believe, 28 units. It's already completed. Probably you all have seen it. So Brookview Apartments is now under contract to purchase the adjoining parcel, provided he obtains zoning approval for the modification to PDD number 86. The land that he's under contract to purchase was at one time, we all knew it as the Hunan Pan, or even before that, I think maybe it was Loretti's restaurant. And then after that, it was a proposal for the Hush Speakeasy. And I think when Mr. Blakeman saw that, he decided that to protect the property values of Brookview Apartments, that he was going to purchase this property and demolish the Hunan Pan building and build another apartment building that's identical to the one that he's already built and completed. That was the rationale for why we're here. So what we are seeking to do is to modify PDD number 86 by adding 1.2 acres to the 4.3 acre parcel that he already owns. We've prepared a lot line revision map. Alex, if you can pull up exhibit 4, I want to show you that.
What was the acreage being added to the 4.38?
I think it's 1.28.
Yeah, okay.
So we prepared what we call a lot line revision map. And a lot line revision map is simply when you have the ability, you can take a lot, you can move property lines as long as you're not creating a subdivision, which by state law is two or more lots. So in this case, what we've done is we've split off a home. I don't know if you guys can see it, Alex, on exhibit 4. It's hard for me because I'm here. I don't know it. Oh, there we go.
What page is that?
Okay, so what you're looking at is a survey map that was prepared by Tracy Lewis, and you'll see it says parcel A, and then you'll see it says parcel B. So there's an existing house that's on this property, and what we've done is we've made a box around it, right? And we call that parcel B. So that allows the owners of this property, the Cove family, to keep that home, but it will not be part of the PDD. So parcel B is about 90, my eyes are going, 9,500, is that what it says? I think 9,500.
You mean parcel B?
Yeah,
9980.
9980, myself, yeah, there we go, now I can see it. Okay, so that's where a lot line revision is. All right, so now if you look at parcel A, scroll back. Yeah, parcel A will be what we're centering on today, okay? So we met with the board of directors of Sunwood Condominium. If you follow Sunwood Drive, Alex has it there perfectly, and you go down, you'll hit Sunwood Condominium. So we had a meeting with them, and I brought with them the easement documents that I obtained from the land records. And we had a nice meeting, and we all agreed that it's a private road, that Blakeman and Sunwood would have the ability to use that Sunwood Drive under the existing documents that are recorded on the land records. And that could be their ingress and egress from parcel A would be on Sunwood Drive. Since it is a private road, it's not a public road, it's a private road. The Blakeman and the board of directors talked about perhaps paving it, making some improvements, maybe some buffering with trees and those sorts of things. That would be a private agreement that they have between themselves. Everyone shook hands, and we left with the understanding that we were going to be making this application to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We've also went to the WPCA, and same scenario. We made an application. They had their hearing, and they said they didn't approve it because they wanted to see whether you were going to approve the project first. But they did tell me that there was capacity for the units. We also applied to wetlands. There are wetlands on the property. You can see them. They're flagged, and the flagging delineates where the wetlands are. We were on their agenda, but they had a problem getting a quorum, so the meeting was postponed. And I think it's going to be scheduled in the next week or so. They had nothing to do with us. I did speak with John Cook. He's the wetlands administrator. And we went over this project the way it is. From my meeting with Mr. Cook, it looks as though that they should approve the site plan, but they needed to have a meeting because there's going to be a couple little permit areas where it's closest to the parking lot. They're not big permits, to be quite honest. So that's in the works. Likewise, we hired Kermit, and I apologize, Kermit, I keep saying your last name wrong. I say you. Yeah, my apologies. He was the traffic engineer, and he's going to explain about the separate entrance. That this proposal and this building has a separate entrance, and from the existing building that you all approved and saw, that one went directly, remember, using out to Old Bridgeport Avenue. I would say it would be parallel to what was the Knowlbrook condominium or Grove Court Street, remember?
What are you referring to? What do we see?
The building that's existing
Yeah.
has a separate entrance
Right,
right out
right,
to
yeah, right. yeah.
Old Bridgeport Avenue.
Okay,
Not the same as the one with Central Drive.
right.
They're not connected.
Isn't it the same road though that goes into Knollwood? Is it Knollwood?
One is no brook,
No,
and this is some.
no.
That's separate.
We had a
That's just
dispute,
Sorry, yeah,
Commissioner Parkins with Knowlbrook.
Right.
It was an adverse possession issue. I don't know if you remember all that.
Mhm.
So we had to build it up. Yeah, I know. Jim won't forget it.
It's been a while.
He
It was
lost
held
a
up.
few hair, some hair because of that.
Point that out.
We had to put a driveway adjacent to it.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make, maybe I'm getting tired, is that they have their entrance and this building will have its own entrance.
Right.
All right, that's easier.
Is there a wetland setback line anywhere?
Well, in Shelton, the wetland setback line is 50 feet. Any impact from a wetland flagged area of 50 feet. So the impact here would be, in my opinion, would be the parking lot area, Tony, to the right of the building. Might be 50 feet from the parking lot area to the left of the building as well. That's the impact on the wetland. That's not to say you can't do it. They just have to review it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have an answer.
Have you
on
been
that.
to wetlands at all yet?
Yes.
What he mentioned was, yeah, they
Maybe you can't
had,
hear me. Yeah, we did try to go, Tony, but they didn't have a quorum and they had to cancel the meeting. So we're gonna have it next week.
Okay.
But we did meet with Mr. Cook and go over these issues.
It's, the layout bothers me because it crowds right up to Sunwood Drive, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been better if we could have moved the whole development away from Sunwood Drive.
I understand your point. And of course, wetlands tells us just the opposite.
You can't.
Well, yeah,
They want us
without knowing where that regulatory line is, we can't really do anything.
Well, this commission would not have, yeah, I mean, it's up to wetlands to approve it. As you well know, you file simultaneously. I was really hoping that they were gonna have their meeting first before I came to see you, but I didn't expect them to cancel it.
No.
In any event, we know we have to get wetlands approval. I don't want to, that's clear. So as far as the building, I think this project's a lot easier. It'll be a lot shorter because it's the same building that Mr. Lake built for the Brookview apartment that's to the south of this project. Notwithstanding that, I do have Pat Rose, who's the architect, Manny Silva, who's the engineer, and Kermit on traffic. So with that, I'll let them get started unless you have a question of me.
anybody have a question for Attorney Bellis?
No, not a question, but I think what Tony, and he can tell me if I'm wrong, but what he's getting at is that this is like a parking lot right up against the road. And there's no green break, there's nothing, it's, right?
Well, the road is
The
a
pavement,
private
the pavement
driveway.
on the site and the pavement of Sunwood Drive are very, very close together.
I would agree with that statement.
They're not 10 feet apart.
Can a green buffer be put in there?
I think the engineers can address that. I'm more of a lawyer.
Well, you got to be able to move the building location a little bit.
More of a lawyer, more or less a lawyer?
Yes, I understand the concern, and I think when I go to wetlands, if they allow us to slide things down a bit, we can put a green buffer. So that
What about the
there-
other way around? What if you pulled the building towards Sunwood and moved the driveway on the other side? Have you explored any alternative layouts, I guess is what I'm going to ask you. Because this one,
Is it Manny or Pat? I'm gonna have Manny address that, okay, John?
nobody had any work sessions on this, did they?
No.
Yes, we had a work session. We did have a work session.
Okay, Manny Silva from Rose Diesel, 35 Brentwood Avenue, Fairfield, Connecticut, civil engineer. So yeah, we did kind of look at trying to flip this so that the parking's behind the building. It's not possible because of the way the grade is. So Sunwood.
Because of what?
Uphill.
Because of the grade.
Because of the grade, so Sunwood goes uphill.
They don't look bad on my drawing.
So the concern is that Sunwood right now is the private driveway that goes to a condominium complex. We can put in, we have enough room to put in like an arborvitae strip along that retaining wall because there is a grade break between Sunwood and our parking lot. There's gonna be a grade break. So we can screen it. Sunwood's gonna be higher than our parking in that area as it comes around the curve to the left. So we're gonna be able to put we have an opportunity to put arborvitae's or arborvitae row if we needed to on top of that wall.
What about if you pulled the building towards Sunwood and flipped the circulation to the other side toward the brook?
The problem with that is that, again, we want the building to be level, right? So,
To be-
and as you get closer to the Sunwood, you're not gonna be able to do that. You're gonna have Sunwood grade changes too much for us. So as you can see, if you look at the grading plan, that area, the parking
I'm
area.
looking at your grading plan.
Yeah, so we're gonna go scroll through it right now, next sheet. You can see that we come in at elevation, I can't read it right now, but on the left-hand side, it's elevation 220, and on the right-hand side, it's got it, if you go all the way down, if you scroll over to the other side, it's at 204. So you have 20 feet difference from one side to the other. And the only way we're gonna be able to connect those two platforms is to have that driveway along Sunwood. And you can see Sunwood is up at 225, and then we're at 216. So we're gonna be lower. We're gonna be lower than Sunwood. Sunwood is really coming uphill. And that really prevents us from having a building close to that driveway. So we have to pull it back, and we pulled it back as far as we could without really getting into the brook that we're gonna go to wetlands for, which is along the bottom of the page.
So there's no plan to have part of the building hit the hill?
So the left-hand side of the building, those two little rectangles are buried on
they
the
are.
first floor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they don't have units. They have, well, the back part has units. The front is, I think, some kind of amenity space.
Yeah, okay.
And I think I'm gonna turn it over to Pat. Can I go over the building really quick? And then I'll be back. Okay?
Man,
Pat Rose T-Zone Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue, architect for the project. Yes, then the site, there is a grade break with the building from the right-hand side, which is the 4-story portion of the building, to the left-hand side, which is a 3-story portion of the building.
Mhm.
So you can see that break in the grades that were coming up from Sunwood Drive and then having to rise up to get into that parking lot on the left-hand side, which is at 3 stories. And even with that, there's still a difference in grade between Sunwood Drive and our parking lot. That's why there's a retaining wall shown there. The rear of the building is 4 stories at the base of the brook, and the grade is dropping away towards the brook. This building itself is virtually identical to Brookview's first building, except that it's backwards. Such that the other side is 3 stories, and then as you're coming in, it's 4 stories. So it's a little different. What we've done on the floor plans is that as you look at this, what you're looking at on the right-hand side, you'll see where it's buried, where we have electric room, sprinkler room, and the gymnasium. We have entrance vestibule from the driveway, which is closest to Sunwood Drive. And then on the left-hand side is the entrance to the stairway from the lower parking lot. We have 6 units on this floor, 2 of them being 1 bedrooms with den or office, and then the other 4 being 1 bedrooms. Your typical floor plan. This is the same, virtually the same floor plan that we had on the other building. You have 4 1 bedrooms with den or office, and then 4 1 bedrooms that are just straight 1 bedrooms. Each of these have a deck and a mechanical room off the deck. Next floor is virtually the same thing, except that it's at the top level. Elevations of the building, it's going to look virtually the same. I bring you a picture of of Brookview
Mhm.
existing, which is actually reversed.
Okay.
But you're seeing the 3-story side, which faces the Sunwood Drive.
Mhm.
And then it drops down to the 4 stories where the entrance off of Sunwood Drive is.
Mhm.
Materials will be, stone on the front elevation, stone on some of the lower portions, and then siding for 3 stories, and then shakes on the upper portions where the gables are.
Center entrance, that looks like stone. Is that stone?
Yeah, correct. At the lower level, it's stone, and that, where it's 3 stories and 4 stories, stone on the bottom.
Right.
And the front elevation, which is the next page. That's the front elevation that faces Sunwood Drive.
Mhm.
Anything else? Mr. Panico, have anything for Mr. Rose?
No, there's got to be a better way to lay it out. That's all I can say.
Okay, but the building construction, you have nothing, materials, you don't have anything at this time for that? Okay, and Mr. Silva, you're back for?
That's just a minimal site plan, really quick, promise.
Okay.
quick.
No,
So Manny Silva, 35 Brentwood Avenue, civil engineer. So we have SP0, which kind of shows you the overall site with the 2 phases of the project.
Mhm.
Top and the bottom. Then we have where you can see that we have the 2 parking fields to the right and left, and then some parking in front of where the building comes in. We have our handicap spaces on the 2nd floor on the left-hand side because that's our easiest way to come in and make it accessible. Again, we'll go to SP2, which is our grading utility plan. I kind of went over that briefly already. The site is basically split into 2 halves. To the right-hand side is the lower level, where the building's 4 stories, you come in onto the 1st floor, and then the other side, the left-hand side, you come onto the 2nd floor, which is 12 feet up. Again, we have a retaining wall along Sunwood, which is a private driveway to the condominium complex. We'll screen that. And right now the site is uncontrolled. All the drainage kind of just goes right into that culvert and into that retaining wall. It's like a channel with 2 stone walls. All the water just runs into it right now. So what we're gonna do is have catch basins to collect everything, and then put it into an underground gallery system, similar to the previous application. We have a control structure, which then holds the water back into that gallery system. We have a storm scepter system, which cleans the water into that little circle just below that catch basin there. And then after that, the overflow goes into an infiltration swale. So it's basically just a grass swale with some stone on the side, and that overflow is into the brook where the water goes into right now. Again, we're going to have a reduction of volume going into the brook. So the 2-year storm will be reduced by 8%. The 5-year storm will be reduced by 15.8%. The 10-year storm will be reduced by 20%. 25-year storm by 22%. 50-year storm by 25%. 100-year storm by 10%. So we're going to reduce the amount of water coming off the site from the existing condition into the brook and the wetland. And we're also going to improve that water quality because we are going to have a water treatment system prior to going into the galleries. And that water will get infiltrated into the ground, which is also being filtered. Currently, right now, all the water comes off of the Hunan Pond parking lot straight into the brook. So uncontrolled, and all the oils and floatables and everything, all the sand goes into the brook and down to the well. So we have improved water quality and a reduction in volume overall. We then have we have our soil erosion control plan. Next sheet will be silt fences around the whole property. Silt sacks in the new catch basins. We have an anti-tracking pad coming off of Sunwood, so we don't track any mud into the road. We have a protected stockpile area, so when we strip any topsoil, we have silt fence around it so that that doesn't spread all over the site and make a mess. Again, we have reinforced silt fence with hay bales along the wetland area, so there's no chance of any mud or anything getting into there. The next one would be our ornamental landscaping plan, SP4. Again, we show, actually, it's going to be a detail sheet. Go on to the next one. Yeah, that's our soil erosion control detail sheet. It's typical. There's our landscaping plan. We have a lot of landscaping right at the base of the building, kind of to break it up, and then we have our islands, which will have low growth landscaping with some street trees to kind of shade the parking lot. Again, we don't show it right here, but we will add, per Mr. Panico, we'll add some screening along that the Sunwood side of that retaining wall, so that similar to what we did on the property down to the south, we'll have a row of arborvitaes kind of screen that whole thing. Essentially, you won't be able to see the building from Sunwood Avenue at that point, Sunwood Drive at that point, but we'll add a row of arborvitaes because that space is limited. Arborvitaes will grow there, and that's probably one of the select plants that you would use in a tight space like that. So on to the next one. We did use some large trees. We put some large trees in the back of the building kind of to break it up because we do have to grade that area, and we'll just replant some larger old growth trees. As you can see in grade are the trees that we're going to keep. Those are larger trees that are there right now. We identified them and we're going to keep them. We're going to protect them. All right, next. Here, detailed curbs, pavement, markings, things of that nature. Next one. It's our catch basins, manholes, and then your retaining walls are going to be, there's our plunge pool, basically is our overflow from our gallery system, and then our storm scepter is there on the bottom, which is going to clean the water before it goes into the galleries. The next one. That one's called First Defense. We use a downstream defender, storm scepter, now First Defense. We're we're using everyone. And that's basically my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I think this is more for Mr. Rose, but I don't think there was any mention of trash.
So trash is, I think is interior too, right? This one. What's outside? Do we have, go to,
The location would be,
I thought we had one. So on the left-hand side, well, actually we have a tree there. So the dumpster is either probably gonna be either this corner or this corner here. Thought we showed a dumpster enclosure.
let's see.
Going to provide charging stations also.
We haven't shown any on this one, but it is possible. But yeah, the dumpsters will be, I believe, will be on the in those corner pieces on the upper parking lot to the left. That's where we put the enclosure.
Okay. Attorney Bellis, is your client going to be providing any affordable housing?
Yes, he wants to voluntarily provide 10% of the units. And again, they would be random throughout the building. So then in this particular case,
Three.
there would be 3.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the parking ratio?
So it's 62 and we have 30 units. So it's a little over 2.
And the response to the charging station? Yes, no?
Yes, yes.
You haven't
They
haven't shown it.
didn't show
show
it,
it.
Yeah, big
No.
spots.
Yeah,
but you will put one in.
we would agree that it's not on the plans now.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I would say 2.
2 of
Yeah, at
them,
least 2.
my client's saying he would do 2.
You save money by installing them now because you're gonna have to.
Yeah, it's
install
easier
them.
now, I
We got to
agree.
do it later.
Still have to put it close enough to the building so that you can see electric.
Yeah.
Are there any amenities at this place, grills or anything like that outside, any kind of outdoor amenity?
Jim Blakeman, 96 Big Horn Road,
Mhm.
the applicant. There should be a couple of gas grills outside, usually have a dog walking area that people walk their dogs. Fenced area. We haven't designated an area yet.
Okay.
But I think advice or whatever you guys recommend, where you'd like it maybe. It worked really well with the other building, the outside garbage and gas grills.
Good.
The tenants used it like it.
The what, tennis?
The tenants next door. to the
Oh,
other building
tenants.
like it.
Yeah, I get-
So we're gonna do the same. All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Is there gonna be any cross, the ability to walk from one to the other between the properties?
We're gonna discuss that with wetlands because there's a natural spot by the waterfall there.
Oh, okay.
To put a small bridge across, which would be beautiful. And I'd like to connect it for people walking the dogs and things. We're gonna try to.
Okay.
So are we looking at the same thing here, direct to detailed design? One stage? In this case, we may have to keep this
I just
open
wanted to,
Because of that.
because of the
In the
wetlands. we don't
yeah,
have
I
any
wanted to let you
changes.
know we can't close. it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, look, I'll have Mr. The traffic engineer
Yep.
speak before we close, but we can't close it anyway.
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, without knowing what wetlands may do.
Again, for the record, Madam Chair, Kermit Hua, KWH Enterprise LLC, Meriden, Connecticut. I did accounts several weeks ago at both ends of Old Bridgeport Avenue. One end is the intersection of Old Bridgeport Avenue and Bridgeport Avenue. The other is at a Court Street intersection with Bridgeport Avenue. As part of the background traffic, I did include the other application currently in front of the commission, which is 265 Bridgeport Avenue, the gas station at a Court Street intersection. So that's part of the traffic, feature traffic, or what I call build traffic in the traffic analysis. In terms of the trips generated by these 30 units, I'm projecting 11 trips. That's total of in and out trips for the morning peak hour and 12 trips for the afternoon peak hour. Just put those numbers in perspective. They are less than 1% of the through traffic volume on Bridgeport Avenue. So that's not a great contribution in terms of the increase in area-wide traffic. As you know, Old Bridgeport Avenue is not a very busy street. When these units are built and occupied, we are looking at level of service A at the driveway and also at the adjacent intersection of Old Bridgeport Avenue and Sunwood Drive. So there's really very little traffic even during the busiest peak hours on Old Bridgeport Avenue. There are some existing delays at the two end of the intersection for traffic exiting the Old Bridgeport Avenue towards Bridgeport Avenue and also for traffic exiting Court Street on the Bridgeport Avenue. But these are existing conditions, just in terms of incremental changes. As a result of this development, we are not going to change any level of service grades at all those intersections. So that's all I have, Madam Chair, unless the commission has any questions.
Any of the commissioners have any questions for our traffic engineer? Okay.
So I have, I'm not going to go through them all, but I attached online, and I think Alex posted all the exhibits. 1 through 10, drainage report, traffic study, the easement agreement that I spoke of earlier, the WPCA application, the wetlands application, statement of uses and that sort of thing. So they're all in the packet. I don't want to bore you with all of those. The bottom line is, I think that this would not have any impact in that area due to the very minimal amount of traffic that this would generate. It's kind of tucked away off of the road, Sunwood Drive being a private road. As I said, we spoke with Sunwood Drive Board of Directors, and they were in agreement with us using, as far as there's no dispute using the road. I understand Tony has some issues, perhaps, but I think that really interplays with wetlands, and I'd like to go to wetlands. And I'll keep the meeting open so that I could come back to you and give you what their input was, and I think that'll help this commission decide as well.
Exactly. All right, we'll go to the public portion.
Can I
Is there-
just,
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Moto.
Yeah. a little tiny comment here, but I'd like you to get rid of the butterfly bush, if you don't mind.
No butterfly bush, guys.
And, you know, I'm trying to picture this idea of an arborvitae screen right up against the road. And I know
Is it
how,
That's gotta be, we gotta make room there.
I mean, even something lower wouldn't, I don't know how you can put something tall right up against the road. Which is,
Why don't we give it a little thought and we'll come back to you if that's okay, Commissioner Moto?
That probably will answer.
Mhm.
Inland wetland.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to wait and see what wetlands says.
okay.
I understand the concern.
Okay, anybody else from the commission? Okay, all right, so on the public portion, if there's anyone in the auditorium that would like to make any comments about this particular application, please come up and sign the sheet and then go to the podium. And in the meantime, if there's anybody that is participating by Zoom and you would like to make any comments, please use the raise your hand feature so that Mr. Rossetti can identify you. So no one from the audience? Mr. Rossetti, anybody from Zoom? Nope, okay. Last call for anyone from the audience that would like to make any comments on this particular application. And last call for anyone participating remotely to raise your hand on the Zoom. Okay. All right, so seeing that applicant has requested that we keep the public hearing open. Just remind that people that if new material is submitted, public is has the ability to comment on that at the continuation. So, so before I ask for the motion to continue the public hearing, any further comments from the commission or Mr. Panico?
Well, I'm glad that you're going to continue it because I think there is the ability to massage that plan a little bit and make the condition along Sunwood a lot better than it is. Perhaps improve the efficiency of those parking lots. I mean, both parking lots have a single row of 3 or 4 cars and it demands another 50 or 60 feet of pavement. It just, and I think by playing around with the building location a little bit, maybe there's some way of getting rid of the parking spaces that are right in front of the building and work them out somewhere else and just put a connecting driveway there, or make more room by moving the building slightly towards the water course and uphill. So
Okay.
I think there's room to investigate massaging that plan.
Okay, very good. All right, so is there any commissioner who'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for application 2208?
Commissioner Parkins will make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Kelly has seconded, so on the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Parkins, seconded by Commissioner Kelly, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins, and chair votes aye. Motion to continue the public hearing passed 6-0, and staff will schedule continuation on an upcoming meeting of the commission. Thank
all,
you.
And I'll see you again.
All right, final agenda item is approval of the April 12th, 2022 minutes. Does anybody have any comments or corrections for the minutes that were emailed to all the commissioners?
Yes.
I had
Oh.
something,
Did you prepare amendments to them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was not happy with them when I read them.
You know what, Mr. Panico, let me check. I can pull up my email to, I might not have included you in that.
Did you?
That's what I'm just thinking right now.
I don't think so.
Okay, sorry, I apologize for that.
No problem.
So, okay. All right, so Commissioner Mata, what did you want to comment
Just-
on?
I'm just trying to find it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be able to find this here.
I've got one.
Well, Commissioner Parkins is gonna, so you continue looking.
Yeah, okay.
Business B, uses the typo determines, it should be just determined. But the, Paul Grimmer indicated that it was the city that received a larger grant, not, what the grant wasn't specifically to Cinzabog, it was to the city, so it just say indicated that the city received a larger grant than specified.
Okay. All right, so.
Say for use at Cinzabog or what. I printed, this is your document.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, it's at the end, I'm not on the page.
That's all I have.
Other business.
Just want to clarify because the city's the one that's managing the grants. so.
Mhm. Commissioner Mutter, how about you? Did you find what you were thinking of?
This, sorry, no, I think it's something very minor. This is
Okay.
where we discussed that the R1 to R2 zone change. Was that this meeting?
No,
No, okay, no, all right, not these minutes then.
That was,
Yeah, okay, I'm good.
you're talking about Long Hill Avenue, Donovan Lane?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on, it's
That's
under
this
section
meeting, right.
Roman numeral 5, old business. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is April 12th.
Okay. I'm sorry, no, never mind. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the agenda. And
it should be on page
Or
3-4, page 4, it starts on.
Well, there was something quoting me as saying that continuous lots, it was right at the top of the page, first paragraph. That continuous lots would be a problem, and I'm pretty sure I meant that should be discontinuous lots.
In that whole category for that application
I don't see that.
21,
Yeah.
22.
Lots would not, yeah.
Yeah. It's the
Continuous lots
second-
would not be desirable, so what I
So
had said was discontinuous lots. Yeah,
Discontinuous, okay,
right.
got it. Okay, so it's the beginning, the
Yeah.
sentence starts, Chairman Harder indicated public hearing was held on March 16th. She asked the commissioners if all the parcels should be included or if any of them should be excluded. Commissioner Motto mentioned discontinuous lots would not be desirable.
Yeah.
Good correction, okay.
That was it.
All right.
Thanks for finding that. I was,
Same thing, should be renewable energy, not renewal energy.
Where are you?
Again, on the business,
Back to the end?
yeah, back to the end,
Oh,
Is that how the fuel cells?
okay.
renewable energy.
That's my nose. Okay, Cinderella Heights. Oh, all right, and then back at the end of the minutes in section Roman numeral 8, other business B. And towards the end of that first paragraph, the word is not renewal, it's renewable. Okay, all right, any further comments from the commission? Okay, is there anyone that would like to make a motion on the minutes?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Panico.
the items that were added and then discussed, there's no indication of who made the request for what. It's-
Are you talking about noting in the minutes
Yeah, I'm
from the
looking,
commission?
right. First of all, you added them on and it says application 2210 text changes. Doesn't say who, is that a commission petition or is it an outside petition? And the
Oh,
same way, modification of a previously approved site plan.
Okay, so.
And
at
then
the
that was set
beginning-
up for public hearing. Why are we hearing a site plan modification? Is it part of a design control district or what? It's
Right,
just
so
that they're very vague.
All right, so under Roman numeral 3, which is roll call, it's right after that, the add-on,
Yeah,
where it says, is that where you're referring to? Chairman Harger indicated you would like motions to be made in order to add the following 3 items? Is that where you were, what part you were at?
well, it's in part there, but go into the body of the minutes
Oh, okay.
when they're actually discussed.
All right, got it.
I think, yeah. Where was it?
Yeah, I see it.
Under new business.
Roman numeral 6.
Item B, C, item D,
Yes,
2209, text changes having to do minimum lot area. Who's the applicant?
oh, I see. Okay,
2210, changes to section 33.3, whatever. Who's the applicant again?
all right, good. catch.
2211, modification of a previously approved site plan. Normally, site plans do not have to go to public hearing.
Okay,
So I just, to me, it was too vague. I couldn't figure out what it was saying.
okay. Mr. Zeddy, do you have any indication who are the people that had asked on those 3 applications, who they are? Yep, he's, Mr. Zeddy's going to be sharing that with us in a second.
Sorry, what was that?
Mr. Rossetti is looking up those 3 applications as to who the applicant is.
They're all done.
They're all Attorney Thomas, and are they on all the same client?
Why weren't they just rolled up into one
They're
application?
not, he's saying that they're not the same client. He's looking. them up.
Oh, okay. All right. Is he for all 3 of those?
He's coming
10,
over to.
9, 10, and 11?
No, he's coming over now.
Tony, Attorney Thomas dropped these all off the day of the meeting and requested that they be put on because of whatever reason. We added them on. We didn't even have time to read the application. As a courtesy, the commission accepted them. They are all projects by Dominic Thomas. One of them is to change schedules A and B. Another one is to change the floor area requirements of section 34. And then another is for a zone change for 445 access road.
So
Where is that? Which one is that?
So the 445 access road is application number 2211.
Okay.
The text change for the floor area ratio applying to section 34.3.4
34.3.4. Okay.
is application number 22-10.
Yep.
And then the text amendment,
Where is that? Is that any particular location?
it's to this section 34.
Right, but it's not a physical location in town.
No,
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 okay.
no, no, it's to a floor area
Just-
ratio
yes.
standard.
On the standards, okay.
Application 2209 is a text amendment for the lot area per dwelling unit standards of Schedule B and some modifications to Schedule A.
Okay. But at the very least, we ought to indicate who the applicant was.
Sure.
So did I understand that they came in that day of the agenda and asked to be put on?
Yes.
And why did we not say no?
Mhm. It was just except for review. It's not like we were
I
going
know,
to
but
be
it
hearing
bogs
it.
everything down, right? It just,
Yeah, know
I
what you're
mean,
saying.
there should be a timeline, right? The applicant should be expected to, before an agenda is prepared, there should be
Was this shortly?
Where's the
before
one
we
I?
went away?
No, I
No.
told him no,
Yeah.
but
2211, you said applies to 445 Access Road?
that's correct.
Mhm.
And
That's so, do you remember how,
was that just a site plan approval?
um,
It's a site plan that's part of a PDD. That's what it is. 441 is a
Correct.
PDD, I believe.
correct, it's a two-part PDD. There's the old gas station part.
Yep, I remember that. Okay, so that's why we're having a public hearing then. Okay,
Correct.
it's a major modification of
Of a
detailed
PDD.
development plans.
Yep.
All right, so I think the minutes ought to at least
Reflect that.
reflect some of that stuff.
Okay,
Okay.
I can send Sarah some notes for clarification.
All right, seeing that that might be a little bit more extensive than we expect, then maybe we should just table approving these particular minutes. Does anybody have any issues with that? No, okay, then we'll just pick it up.
As long as you're going to do that, then you might as well change the beginning of it where you added them to the agenda
Mhm.
and indicate who the applicant was.
Yep, okay. Very good. All right, that is the last item on the agenda, and seeing that there's nothing further to do, the chair will declare that the meeting is adjourned as of 9:13 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night. Good night.